Being 6 o'clock, I want to call this meeting of the April 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Select Board to order. And I want to let everybody know that this meeting is being broadcast live by Chelmsford Telemedia and recorded for later rebroadcast. And if you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And before we get to public service announcements this evening, I want to announce that the reason I made the prior announcement about the live broadcast and the recording is because at our last meeting on April 8th, I was issued a complaint, an open meeting law complaint, that I did not do that. And I did not realize at the time that I knew a long time ago that was a requirement. I thought it was no longer a requirement, but in fact, it is a requirement of the open meeting law to make that announcement. So that's why going forward we will be making that announcement. And I want to thank Patrick Higgins, who pointed that out to us and filed the open meeting law complaint. He will receive a letter explaining that we in fact did violate the open meeting law and are taking actions to correct it, including sending an email to all other chairs of boards and committees in town, reminding them to also make that announcement at the beginning of their meetings. So with that, we will, unless anybody else has anything to say about that complaint.
I just want to make a suggestion that we went through an onboarding policy last year, which includes the clerk's list of things they go through, and one of those things that she goes through is the open meeting law guidelines. And so I thought maybe Paul, the clerk's office, should just add that in there since we have rotating chairs, and that way everybody will get the information as they come on board.
Sure. Okay. Okay, anybody else? Okay, with that, we can start with public service announcements.
So first we have a proclamation.
Get the microphone closer. They can't hear you.
In honor of Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day, which is April 24th, 2023. Whereas Armenians fled increasing oppression from the Ottoman government during the 20th century, coming to America in search of freedom, where they could live in dignity without fear and oppression. And whereas, like many ethnic groups, Armenians settled in Chelmsford, seeking a safe place to live, raise their families, practice their religion, and educate their children, they became an asset to the growth and vitality of our town of Chelmsford through their strong work ethic, family values, and civic pride. And whereas the Armenian community of Chelmsford is comprised of the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of the survivors of the Armenian Genocide, and whereas 1.5 million Armenian men, women, and children, victims of genocide, perished in the Ottoman Empire from 1915 to 1923. Now, therefore, the Chelmsford Select Board does hereby issue this proclamation in remembrance of the Armenian Genocide of 1915 and urge all residents to take part in this observance. Presented this 22nd day of April 2024. And
I think we do have somebody here to receive that proclamation. Well, sure.
So good evening. My name is Arajek Navorian, 4 Percheron Road in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, and I represent the Armenian National Committee. And I'm here tonight with a large number of my fellow residents of Chelmsford of Armenian heritage, many of which are the survivors, their children and grandchildren of the survivors of the Armenian Genocide. We are anchored by our most senior representative, George Simonian, as you well know, former principal of Chelmsford High School for many years. And it was George's mother and my father escaped the Armenian Genocide on a boat as teenagers. And we are here today because we were to escape the Armenian Genocide. So on behalf of the Armenian community of Chelmsford, we extend our appreciation to the town for letting us remind the citizens of the Armenian Genocide, which at the hands of the Turkish Ottoman government claimed the lives of 1.5 million Armenian men, women, and children from 1915 to 1923. Considering that the Armenian Genocide is often regarded as a forgotten genocide, most tragically, other genocides followed. And as you may know or may not know, when Hitler was about to wipe out all the Jews in Germany, his advisors said, Adolf, you can't go in there and just kill 6 million Jews. And what did Adolf say? Just 20 years after the Armenian genocide, who remembers the Armenians? And because the Armenian genocide is a forgotten genocide, we unfortunately today suffer the same fate. Another genocide that befell the Armenian people last year was the 100,000 Armenians who were living in the Republic of Karabakh. They were forcibly removed from their historic homelands by the Azerbaijan government. You can imagine 35,000 residents of Chelmsford now have to move someplace else within a couple of days. So Chelmsford has always been a welcoming community to the Armenians, fleeing oppression in many parts of the world. We are blessed to have St. Vartanant's Armenian Church on 180 Oasford Road with Father Khachadur Kislabyan, who's here. Yeah, who with open arms has welcomed all these refugees who have come here, escaping oppression in their respective homelands. So with today's proclamation, Chelmsford honors the hallowed memory of the men, women, and children who perished during the Armenian genocide at the hands of the Turkish Empire. We, the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of the survivors, are proud to stand here in Chelmsford, and we vow never to forget their sacrifice, and then we thank you for not doing so as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Picture, if that takes too much time to take a quick picture with the
Sure,
representatives, it'd be great.
sure, we can do that. Where do you want it, right in front of the,
We can go right over here. We can go in front over here. Just yeah.
how about that?
You can go into the picture. Yeah, of course. I'll be happy to. Appreciate the time. That was a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe, look at the camera. Look at the camera, Joe. Over there.
But they can't see, they can't really, I can see Joe through that.
Steve, why don't you come up front? Yeah. Come next to Milton.
Yeah. Why don't you run over here? Come on, come right over.
Right
over her hood.
Yeah. Ready? One, two, smile.
Got one more over there. Okay, yeah.
No way. Excuse me. Just ready? One, two,
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the support. Great job. Thank you, Paul, for being so hospitable. Thank you. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your patience too. Thank you. Sorry about it.
Thank you. Okay, and to continue on with public service announcements, we have another proclamation in celebration of Arbor Day, which is April 26, 2024. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and beautifying our community. And whereas trees in our town increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, we, the Chelmsford Select Board, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024, as Arbor Day in the town of Chelmsford, and urge all its citizens to protect our trees and woodlands and to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations, and to take part in programs to celebrate Arbor Day. Presented this 22nd day of April 2024. And did we have somebody? Did you want to take this?
Oh, yes. I would like to thank you for helping us draw awareness to Arbor Day. We would like to extend an invitation to all of you and the Chelmsford public to join us Friday, April 26th, 10 a.m. at Roberts Field for the planting of a tree. The Garden Club, Chelmsford Garden Club, will be planting an elm, and the town of Chelmsford will be planting an oak. I would like to also put in a shameless plug for a fundraiser the Garden Club is having to pay for this tree. We're going to be hosting on Thursday, April 25th, from 6 to 9 at the Elks, a fundraiser called Divas and Dogs on the Runway. You're all invited. You can buy your tickets online at chelmsfordgardenclub.org. The proceeds will be used to buy trees, flowers for here in front of Town Hall, and to maintain the public garden on North Road. You're all invited to the fundraiser and to the Arbor Day planting on Friday, April 26th, 10 a.m., Roberts Field. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have a proclamation for parents of kids with cancer. Whereas the town of Chelmsford has been blessed with dedicated individuals whose unwavering commitment to caring for a child going through cancer treatment has made an impact on the care of their child and the community that surrounds them. And whereas on this momentous day, we will gather to honor and recognize the exceptional strength and fortitude it takes for these parents of kids with cancer to continue and move through life and treatment while being a caregiver. And whereas we hold these parents especially close as a community, to show these parents as a community our commitment to their children, family, and friends that surround them. And whereas we pay special recognition to the parents of kids with cancer who are currently in treatment, at this moment in their life, being surrounded by a supportive community is of the utmost importance. And whereas the town of Chelmsford uplifts those parents who have survived the heart-wrenching loss of a child due to cancer. Now, therefore, the Chelmsford Select Board does hereby proclaim April 22nd as Parents of Kids with Cancer Day in our town. We urge all residents to join us in expressing our heartfelt appreciation, support, and empowerment to parents of kids with cancer to feel seen, heard, and supported by the community of Chelmsford. Presented this 20th day of April 2024. And next we have an announcement about the 2024 Earth Week Townwide Cleanup. Earth Day is Monday, April 22nd this year, but why not celebrate all week? Join the annual townwide cleanup by helping to pick up litter along Chelmsford's roads, neighborhoods, parks, and recreation areas. You can pick up yellow bags last week, April 8th to the 19th during hours. Cleanup is this week, and if you leave them curbside, they'll be picked up with the regular trash until Friday, the 29th. Next, we have an announcement from the Chelmsford Health Department. They are hosting a depression and anxiety support group. It is facilitated by Chantel Castle and Marissa Cameron. For more information, you can email mcameron@chelmsfordma.gov or call 978-250-5241. And it's going to be every fourth Tuesday of the month from 6:30 to 8 at the Chelmsford Center for the Arts. Next announcement we have is for spring annual town meeting. Spring annual town meeting will be Monday, April 29th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. at the Senior Center at 75 Groton Road. And a copy of the spring annual town meeting warrant is available now on the town's website. Any resident of the town who is not an elected town meeting member may attend sessions of the meeting and participate in question and answer and discussion portions of the meeting. And links to the presentation and Finance Committee's warrant book can be found on the town meeting webpage, at least 1 week prior to town meeting. Another announcement from the Chelmsford Health Department. Save a Life free Narcan training is presented by the Chelmsford Health Department. It is April 30th from 6 to 6:30 at the Chelmsford Town Hall Fire Training Room. To register, you can call the Health Department at 978-250-5241 or email tangel@chelmsfordma.gov. Also, from the Chelmsford Health Department, we have a free 4-week meditation series. It is at the North Chelmsford Community Center at 31 Princeton Street on the 2nd floor from 11 to 12 every Wednesday, starting May 1st through May 22nd. And if you have questions, you can call the Health Department at 978-250-5241. One more. The Chelmsford Police Department Blue Envelope Project. The Chelmsford Police Department is proud to announce their participation in the Blue Envelope Project, which is a collaborative effort aimed at creating a safer and more supportive environment for drivers diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder during traffic stops. This initiative is a result of a partnership with the Massachusetts Chiefs of Police Association, the Massachusetts State Police Advocates for Autism of Massachusetts, and the ARC of Massachusetts. Looks like key objectives of the Blue Envelope program are empathy and patience, visual cue, effective communication, and preparedness. It says to obtain a blue envelope, visit the main desk at the Chelmsford Police Department, drop by a state police barracks, and complete the online form. Together, let's create a safer and more understanding environment for everyone on the road. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, next up is public input. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board about any topic? And just if anybody's here about the 255 Princeton Street development agreement modifications, you will have an opportunity at that time to speak. So if anyone has anything, any comments about anything else, you can come up to the microphone at this point. Okay. Is there anybody on? No one on Zoom. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, committee vacancies.
So committee vacancies as of...
Oh. Are you for the 255 Princeton Street? Okay, you can come later.
Oh, all right, but I thought you just said to come now.
No, sorry if I misspoke.
So committee vacancies as of today, April 22nd, 2024. The Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee has 1 3-year term available. The Board of Appeals has an associate member position available. The Conservation Commission has 1 unexpired 3-year term. The Commission on Disabilities has 2 unexpired 3-year terms. The Community Action Program Committee has 1 unexpired term. The Cultural Council has 1 3-year term available. The Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee has 1 3-year term. The Historic District Commission has an opening for an associate member. That's a 3-year term also. The Holiday Decorating Committee has 3 unexpired 1-year terms available. The Parade Committee, all applicants are welcome for 1-year terms. The Public Records Advisory Committee has 1 unexpired 1-year term open. The Roberts Field Advisory Committee has 2 unexpired terms open, and the Recycling Committee has 1 unexpired 3-year term open. The town moderator is also seeking a candidate to fill an unexpired term on the Finance Committee expiring June 30th, 2026. If you're interested in serving on a town board or committee, please complete an online application available on the town website.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up we have a couple public hearings. First up is an all alcohol beverage package store license for for In-N-Out Variety doing business as Liquor Market of Chelmsford at 11 Vinyl Square.
Okay. Good evening, members of the board. For the record, my name is Angelique Eliopoulos. I'm an attorney with the law offices of Eliopoulos and Eliopoulos at 9 North Road here in Chelmsford. And I'm here tonight to present to you the application for a new all-alcoholic beverages package store license with the premises at 11 Vinyl Square in Chelmsford. I'm joined tonight by the applicant over here, In-N-Out Variety, Inc., doing business as Liquor Market of Chelmsford, as well as the proposed manager, Ami, who would be, again, the proposed manager under the new license. In-N-Out Variety, Inc. is a Massachusetts corporation. Dev Kambadi is the president, and Krupal Soni is the treasurer and secretary. And again, Ami Soni would be the proposed manager. It's a family-owned business. Dev and Krupal are co-owners and cousins, and Krupal and Ami are married. So before I get into the application itself, just a brief background on the applicants that are before you today. Dev is the owner of a successful liquor business in Burlington, Mass., and Krupal is the owner of a successful liquor package store in Andover. Ami, who will be the manager, again, under the license, is a fellow Chelmsford resident. While not a paid employee, she spent several hours and years working at the family businesses. As the baby of a family with several family businesses, I know how that goes, working without any intention of getting paid while gaining the same, if not more, valuable experience. And so, having already been in the liquor business, everyone involved in this application today are very experienced and familiar with the laws relative to the sale of alcohol. All three have been tip certified. Ami will be the one who ensures that all employees of the business uphold the statutory laws as well as all the rules and regulations that are governed by the town of Chelmsford. Ami would be at the new store full-time, and either Dev or Krupal will be there daily also in the beginning to ensure that the business gets up and running successfully. They'd be utilizing the same point-of-sale system that they've successfully utilized in the other businesses that can accurately scan and process different types of identification cards and ensure that the chance of sales to minors is completely eliminated. Neither of the owners nor the manager has ever sold to a minor, never violated any law, rule, or regulation regarding the sale of alcohol, and have had no complaints issued by the towns that they serve or by the ABCC. So you have the complete application in front of you today. One thing I just did want to clarify, I saw a note in the department sign-off from the building department. There was a question as to whether there's going to be any construction at the location. So I wanted to confirm for the board that there is not. There's no construction that needs to happen. They already have access to an 18-door walk-in cooler, refrigerator, shelving, glass cases, refrigeration cases. They have everything they need, so there'll be no construction being done. So I wanted to confirm that for you. So I'll just take a brief minute to explain the nature of the business that they're intending to operate at that location and go through some of the criteria that you, as a board, typically examine. With regard to need, this will be a boutique liquor store that will seek out quality craft beer, wine, and spirits, as well as some various bar accessories. There's no store of its kind currently serving the Vinyl Square area or North Chelmsford area of town. With regards to traffic and size, there should be really no issue here. There was a prior successful business at the same location that never had any issues with the town. Noise is often considered, but that won't be a factor here as it's for off-site, not on-site consumption, obviously. The board also considers reputation of the applicant, and as I've already mentioned, the reputation of the owners and the managers are spotless, running their successful businesses with no violations or complaints. So that brings us to existing stores. I have a map that, if it's helpful to the board, I could pass out if you would like a visual frame of reference of what you already know, which is that the town stores that are in town already are well spread out. And again, there's no store currently in the North Chelmsford or Vinyl Square area. And so this store would be a great addition to the town's goals of revitalizing Vinyl Square. I know there's a pocket license being held at the moment, though at this time, to my knowledge, there's no clear update or indication as to when and if that would be financed, built, or opened, if it was built or opened in the future. However, I think that it's clear that the applicant in front of you today would be a different store with a different shopping experience. So this store has about 1,300 square feet of sales space versus the other location would be more of a warehouse-sized liquor store. Both are great business models, but and also create, different shopping experiences and serve and address different needs. So if you think about sort of a bigger Target, Walmart type of chain store, cater to the general public, attracting a much larger, maybe customer base. On the other hand, boutiques are often smaller, carry specific niche items, and again, cater to sort of a more particular, smaller clientele. And I think both could certainly exist together. So in closing, I think you have all the information you need in front of you. I had sent the TIPS certification of the manager to James maybe earlier this week, but I'm happy to provide that again if you need it. I have the map if you'd like me to provide that. Happy, of course, to answer any questions that the board might have. Otherwise, I respectfully request that this board approve the application for a new all-alcoholic beverages package store license at 11 Vinyl Square. Liquor Market would like to request to be able to sell alcoholic beverages Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., Friday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., Sundays from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. These hours of operation might eventually be governed or limited depending on the public need, but that's what they would be requesting at this time. And lastly, I don't know that it's the board's policy any longer to hold the meeting over for the 2 weeks. I don't think it is, but just in case that's still in effect, I'll make my official request to waive that as well.
Okay, this being a public hearing, is there anybody here that would like to address the board about this application? Okay, do we have anybody on Zoom? Okay. Anybody on the board have any questions?
Attorney Eliopoulos, you said that you weren't doing construction. The building commissioner's comment said change of layout. Is that what he meant, or are you changing the interior layout from what it used to be, even though there's no construction?
I don't believe there's any. No, there's no change in the layout at all.
Okay.
They're ready to go.
And then on page, Paul, can you scroll to page 18, section C? It says employment. For 2 of the 3 employments listed on the employment information, it's page 18, Paul. You're going way down too far.
I think I need better glasses.
Oh, 18 of it.
1-8.
Okay.
Is it part of the application you're looking at?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. Let me just get there myself. Would
So
you mind
the
saying
su-
what
the su-
number
the
of
su-
the?
s-
Oh, C, 10C.
Section C.
Yep.
Employment information. So the first employer has the supervisor first and last name, but the second 2 employers only have the first name, and I think that there's a reason why they ask for the full name, so I would ask that you provide the full names.
I can absolutely do that. I don't know if it's possible to, if the board were to take a vote and approve it, to make a contingent on getting that
Oh, yeah,
information.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And you're okay with the fire department comments, the 3 items there?
So I'll be honest, I just saw those today, so I don't want to speak on behalf of the applicant without reviewing with them. But again, you could certainly just make the approval contingent on those 3 items coming into play.
You won't get the license unless you meet it.
Yeah,
anyways.
exactly. I don't anticipate any issues, but again, I'll just
Thank you.
confirm that for you.
Okay, anyone else have questions? Karen, George? I have a couple of questions, Angelique. First
Sure.
of all, on the application, under manager application, it lists me with her resume, I guess you could say, her employment information, but it doesn't list anything there about having worked with alcohol on any of those jobs. I
That's-
understand what you
that's
said,
correct.
but I just
That
wanted
is
to
correct.
confirm. Okay. But she does have experience working with family at the other
Both of the other
locations.
businesses, that's correct.
Okay. And my other question has to do with, it seems a funny name, In-N-Out Variety, for a liquor store. Can you explain that?
That's the name of the corporation.
Uh-huh.
So it's not, I guess I can't explain it, but that's just how it's registered with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It will have nothing to do with the doing business as.
Okay, so you know that it can't be a convenience
Liquor
store.
Market of Chelmsford is the name.
Right.
Correct.
right.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So the sign on the building is going to say Liquor Market of Chelmsford and
Correct.
not In-N-Out
That's
Variety.
correct. That is just the name that the corporation's registered in with the
Okay.
Commonwealth.
And you and the owners expect it, the primary purpose to be the sale of beer, wine, and alcohol.
Absolutely. Again, so they have some bar accessories, maybe some gift baskets or things like
Right.
that, but absolutely not a convenience store.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Do we want to have a motion then? Or does anybody have a desire to?
No, I think you have to close the hearing
Oh,
first.
you're right. I'll take a motion to close the hearing then.
I'll motion to close the hearing, public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone have concerns about the proximity to the pocket license that's being held down the street?
Well,
Is that
you should have raised that before we closed the public hearing, if you did.
Well, I mean, the public might have concerns.
Well, but nobody
Nobody
came up.
did.
Yeah, so, well, what I'm wondering is if this is one that we should leave for next week, that we should leave open,
So you.
because that is the normal process, right?
No.
Unless
Not
we waive it.
anymore.
We don't have that policy anymore.
So we can, but we can't.
We can,
Yeah, we can.
we can.
That's the only kind of pause that I have.
Okay, does anybody else have a desire to carry it over for our next meeting?
No.
I guess I would just renew my request to waive it based on the fact that it was published and people would have had the opportunity to come forward today if they wanted to present or say something or speak a concern.
So.
I mean, I would agree with the applicant that, yeah, I mean, it seems like we have people here who are comfortable with what they're doing, so I'm okay with not holding it over, so.
Okay,
So do you want to make a motion, or do you want to let Virginia make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I will make a motion to,
The amendment,
I'm sorry,
with the amendment,
with what amendment?
to include the supervisor first and last names in section 10C, employment information.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the all alcohol beverages package store license for In-N-Out Variety Inc., DBA Liquor Mart of Chelmsford at 11 Vinyl Square, with an amendment to include the supervisor's name. Is that what it was?
Yes, the supervisor first and last name in section 10C, employment information.
The supervisor's first and last name in section 10C, employment information.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next public hearing is for an all alcohol beverage license for 168 Korean Barbecue at 83 Parkhurst Road. We have somebody here for that license.
Good evening. My name is Vivian Pan. I'm actually the owner for DAG Korean Barbecue, located at 83 Parkhurst Road in Chelmsford. So I'm here to seek for approval for the alcohol license for the restaurants.
Okay, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you'll be serving and?
Yes, correct. So this license is going to be pure on the serving alcohol beverages for the restaurants. So this restaurant going to be we're gonna almost starting construction now for build up the restaurants. So we just serving just alcohol beverage and stuff like that.
Okay. And again, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody here that has any comments about this application at this time? Okay. Anybody on the?
Nobody on the Zoom.
Okay. Anyone on the board have any questions, comments about this application?
Go ahead, Pat.
Where are we at with the Department of Public Works as far as the sewer?
Yes. So the landlord actually worked with Tony already with the DPW on the sewage situation. I think they got figured out yesterday, but I didn't hear anything back from Tony yet.
Okay. And is there some confusion on the number of seats? Because the DPW is saying that plan shows 45 seats. I counted it, I'm not sure which is what, but it looks like it's 40 to me. I don't see
It's hard to
45.
tell with the bench. You know,
Yeah.
how many are on?
It looked
Yeah.
like
So we're supposed to
44
be
to
at a
me.
40-seat maximum.
So, okay, so
Yeah,
you're
it's-
okay with
Yeah,
that?
we maximum 40-seat.
40
Correct.
seats, okay. That's it.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
So I just want to follow up on, so that was my question about 40 versus 40. So we're saying this plan does have 40, or does the plan have, because I counted more than 40.
I
And
believe,
I can't read whether, if all those pieces by bench say 4, you're up over 40.
yeah, so the left and right side is 40 seat, but the original drawing, the first drawing, we have 5 more seat on the bar. So we just remove the seat on the bar out to get it to 40 seat maximum. So I'm not sure, you might have an older plans drawing, but
Okay, so you're not going to have any seating at the bar?
we don't have any seating at the bar at the moment, yes.
Is that on this plan, or is the bar seating removed on these plans?
Yeah, so it used to be a 5 seat here on that.
Can you come up to this one where the microphone is?
So the 5 seat is originally on this here.
Yeah,
And we just removed that. So then we contain 40 seat on left and right.
okay.
Yes. Because originally we have that seat here, but we miscounted, so it's 45. So now we just remove it.
So what we're approving reflects the 40?
Correct.
Okay.
Did you initially want the 45?
Yes. But then we come down with the 40 seat, yeah. It was an issue.
They're only permitted for 40 by the planning board?
Planning board hearing process and
Okay.
parking and
Correct.
That would also
Sewerage
impact the
and
sewer, yeah.
Yep.
Significantly. Okay, any other questions?
Okay, make a motion. I will make a
To
motion.
close the public hearing.
Sorry. Oh,
close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing.
do you want me to close the public hearing? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
You make a
Oh, sorry, I
motion.
make a motion to close the public hearing. Sorry.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to close the public hearing. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay.
And I will make a motion to approve the all alcoholic beverages restaurant license for 168 Korean Barbecue LLC, DBA Day G Korean Barbecue at 83 Parkhurst Road, Units 2 and 3, as presented.
40 seats.
Well, it's presented with 40.
Right, sorry. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right. Next up, we have a discussion about the pocket license that was mentioned earlier today. Paul, if you want to talk about what we received and this.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As the board recalls, when you were doing the annual license renewal back in November, December timeframe, the issue came about the license status at the property that people in the room would most recognize next to Princeton Station at 133 Princeton Street. And at that time, the board requested quarterly updates. Well, the first quarter of the year has passed. We received the attached update from the council for the Calhan, which is the LLC that holds the license. And what they're saying is that as of this date, they've have submitted an application for a foundation permit, which has been approved by the building commissioner, and they are finalizing their commercial financing with an anticipated start date in 60 days. I was able to confirm that with the building commissioner. He has received the foundation permit and has approved it. So that's where things stand. So we hope to see work out there within the next 2 months. If not, we'll be back in July with another status report. And if there is no further action, then I think we'd ask the applicant to appear and explain what's going on.
Sure, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any further questions on that?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I want to take one thing out of order right now, that being reports and presentations. I see that Christine Clancy is here. If she wants to come up and make those presentations, and maybe she'll have an early evening for a change.
Thank you. Good evening. First, I have, I just want to see. So I have the ARPA update first tonight.
Okay.
I'll wait. I think almost. Just back a couple more.
There you
There it is. Perfect. Thank you. So I provide this update monthly, and to go over this month's update, so to date we have 57 projects that we have allocated funds, $9.75 million allocated funds. So which leaves, and this is similar to the recent months, we have about $827,000 left in unallocated funds. What we do is we track monthly how much of that has been procured and how much of those procured amounts have been invoiced or spent. So we're at 90% procured, so a little increase from last month. And of that, we have spent or completed 65% of those projects. I can go over, without going over every single item in this spreadsheet. The spreadsheet does include, and I do have some requests tonight that I want to present as well, but this is the summary, this spreadsheet. Before you, anything highlighted in blue is complete. Completely procured and spent. Anything that is green is complete but still in project implementation. Anything that is yellow is partially procured, so still working on some aspects of procurement. And then what is shown in red is projects to be procured. As a reminder, we have a couple deadlines approaching. So the end of this calendar year is when we have to allocate all funds, and then all funds have to be spent by December 26. We have a little bit of time for spending, but we are trying to move forward on the procurement. I just want to go over a couple highlights items. Number 3, that's that modular RTO unit. There was a change that we had brought to your attention a couple months ago where there was electrical change order work that work has been designed, and now we're just getting it priced. So before the May update, we should have that price. We're carrying a price in here, but we'll verify that in the next month update. So that should hopefully bring that project to at least completion in terms of what we understand for procurement. And then item number 12 is the HVAC ventilators, the high school art wing. With April vacation last week, we were able to complete that work. So we'll have an update for that project. Hopefully that is shown as blue for next month and complete. A couple other items on this list that I want to bring to your attention. So the items that we still have, and they have been read for some time, the air balancing projects, 14, 17, 18, 19, and 20. We're still trying to bring on someone in the facilities department, but these projects will, I would say, we have anticipated a spring procurement. It's just a matter of getting those out the door. And a couple other updates, if you go towards the bottom, starting at number 50. This is where we had, probably going back I think it was over the winter, we had added some projects that we saw as critical projects related to drainage, and also we had the staffing in-house to be able to move forward on those projects. So that would be 50, 51, 52, 55. These are all actually we're opening the bid this week, so we'll be able to procure those before the end of the next month as well. So that's good news. Number 54 was the Montview Road drainage improvements. That was completed as part of the reclaim contract. We put that work into that paving reclaim project. And then also I think the next item I'll be talking tonight is sewer. And one of those ARPA projects was the flow metering improvements. So that's just nearing completion as well. So we're making good progress on a lot of these drainage projects, which is good news, and especially given the time of year. This is a time of year where we want to put things out to bid, have construction begin in spring, and hopefully wrap up by the end of the summer. I don't know if there's any questions on these existing projects, and then I do have a couple of requests that we identified as potential critical opportunities.
Okay, any questions on the ARPA update? Okay, if you want to tell us about those.
So a few projects. I know that we had talked about probably sometime this spring and summer we want to come back with a more complete list of projects on how we would recommend spending that remaining $827,000. But in the meantime, we've identified some critical projects that we see as funding. This is a great opportunity to fund, and we also have either quotes obtained or the ability to procure these quickly, whether it be in-house resources. So the first item on the list is, sorry, is the install oil water separator at the fire mechanics garage at 54 Richardson Road. This was presented on that overall list going back, I think, last fall. We have moved forward with design of that. That is something that is ready to be procured. So it's, I would say it's 75, 80% complete. This is something that has been identified, that right now, that fire mechanics garage, that is really their garage that they operate out of. It does have a non-compliant hold tank. So it does have to be upgraded to have a oil water separator. The design has been completed by in-house by our engineering staff, and so it's really just at a point where it's waiting for funds. So we estimate that total is $75,000. Just thinking the timing of we still have unallocated funds, the ability to get that out to bid, we could have that work complete this summer. So that's the first request. The next request is perform a gap analysis for the protection of the town's groundwater and drinking water. So here, as far as a lot of the development projects that have come before various boards, especially right now where we are at sewer capacity, a lot of projects are looking at potentially going on septic of the residential. And also there's this, with PFAS in the environment, there's an increased desire to protect our drinking water. And so when we look at some of the existing bylaws that exist in the protection that we have, sometimes there's some gaps between the bylaws that we have. And I have a list of a couple of this bylaws. This is an example that we would be looking at. We have the Board of Health, the Chapter 201 Groundwater Protection Zone. We also have the Title V requirements, our Stormwater Bylaw, Chapter 141, Mass Stormwater Standards, that has requirements. Planning Board has Chapter 195 zoning as it relates to protection of drinking water, conservation bylaw as well. And then recently also, the Water Department has their aquifer protection regulations as well. So when you look at all those bylaws and trying to, for a developer to come in and try to kind of go through those, sometimes we're seeing potentially gaps. And so what we've identified through in talking with Evan Belansky and other town staff is in the health department and Sue Rosa, is this would be a really great opportunity to look at all these and see if what is missing or what could potentially be made to revise some of these bylaws, make recommendations, and also outline a process. Is there a process that would help some of these projects that come forward? Sometimes they go before the planning board, before they go to the Conservation Commission. We did reach out and receive a quote for at least a quote for some of this work, so we're estimating between $30,000 to $35,000. And so we right now we're at a point where we just haven't identified a source for those funds. So that's the second request that could be procured really more immediately, I would say, the next couple weeks.
Christine?
And then, yep.
So if we bring in some outside help to do the gap analysis, and so then depending what those gaps are, you would get the relevant boards or commissions in place to work together on bylaw changes to bring to town meeting?
So I think first what we would do is we've already coordinated with some of these boards, get some input, looking at this is what are our questions, and I think in terms of protection of drinking water, what would we have everyone understand what the scope is and really to reviewing these bylaws, have that feedback, and they would also take upon, this is a environmental firm that is experienced, they're hydrogeographic experience, environmental experience. So take that experience and provide a recommendation. Those recommendations would be put forth in a report that would be reviewed by the boards. So it will take it might take time to make some of those changes. Some changes might be very straightforward and might be more direct. Some might take longer.
Thank you.
And then who would kind of organize the collaboration between the boards? Would the consultant do that as part of the bid, or the DPW?
So we were
because that's kind of a lot.
Yeah, so really it's actually I would say, so a lot of this kind of had started with the Board of Health or the health department, and then with Evan Belansky, myself, conservation. So that's the thing, is we were kind of called into different meetings, and different questions would come up, and we realized that this is really a great opportunity to look at maybe if there's a way to streamline this, because every time too we go about a different review, sometimes there's a new nuance or a new question that pops up. And this is particularly, I think, becoming evident because of the, really the increased need to protect our drinking water, and also the increased need to have septic too. So we have a lot of the town is in aquifer protected area, and so if there are developments that have to come forward protecting their ground to protection zone and they have to install septic, there's certain bylaws, and then there's other ones that maybe contradict. But it could be used for beyond just residential. It could also be used for really any development or any project coming before the boards.
I'm just wondering who's going to specifically kind of lead the collaboration.
So the
between
collaboration
boards?
would be, the consultant would definitely, we would have a meeting with representatives from those boards. I would say the lead would be probably between planning and health department, with input from conservation and DPW.
Okay.
It's a little task force.
It's yes. So that I guess we see it as being it would be helpful to, I think, for DPW to speak, it would be helpful to us, because the way projects come through, we're making comments as it relates to stormwater, and then someone else is making comments as it relates to zoning. So I think and then we're reading those bylaws and trying to interpret them. So I think having someone from the outside looking in, maybe, and especially with their experience in other communities, there might be a good opportunity to make improvements. Any other questions on that one? That one is, it's, I think, probably one of the more difficult tasks, so maybe doing a gap analysis, but I do think it is needed. The next one's, I guess, not much easier, and I'll talk about the sewer capacity. Everyone's aware of the sewer capacity constraints we have. We've talked a lot about short-term and midterm goal opportunities, and so that's where we're looking at the II removal opportunities. The long-term goal that we have is how do we bring on additional capacity? We have reports that look, can we add some type of system in town, and we're restricted where we can't have that capacity. Is there a potential to buy capacity from Lowell? Right now, the answer is that's not an opportunity at the moment. So really, the only other opportunity potentially out there is, could we connect to the MWRA? There's a location in Burlington and in Bedford, and it's not too far, a couple towns over, but that it potentially is feasible. And so I think it's worth going through the effort to see what hurdles would it take, or what the cost would be. So doing a whole feasibility study to see how realistic that is, because that really is one of at least the last options I can think of at the moment. So that would be a proposal to look at this, and we could potentially have that obtained within the 2 months. We would reach out to some consultants and receive proposals. And that's estimated at $40,000. So those 3 projects we put together based on critical needs that we're seeing currently, and also the ability to quickly procure them. And so that amounts to $150,000. Right now we have $827,000, so we would be taking $150,000 from that $827,000. So that would be the request tonight, if possible.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
On the MWRA, the study is to just address the first order question of, if we were to connect, how much would that cost?
Well, I think
right? Because there's a secondary question, like how much capacity are we looking for, depending on what the town really wants.
So I think that the connection is going to be, if you put a 2-inch pipe, if you put a 4-inch pipe, or whatever that size, I think it's the connection. I don't think the capacity is really the question. That is a secondary question. If we can find a corridor between those 2 locations, whether it be a 2-inch or a 10-inch pipe, I don't think that's going to really change. And I think that's where you'll find a lot of capacity. And if you're going to install a 2-inch pipe, probably at least a 4-inch, there'll be, I don't think capacity is that first question. I think the capacity would be the second question. by putting a pipeline, I guess
I agree. I'm
you
just like,
considerably
I'm
increase that
making the
capacity.
point, like,
Yeah.
we could connect for unlimited sewer capacity, or we could say, hey, we want to have more reserve over what we have today, and, you know, it kind of goes in the whole strategic view of how much development does the town want. But right now, the answer is everybody's putting in their own plants or putting in sewer or septic. And the septic, I think, is something that's why we put the sewer in the first place, was to not have septic near the,
Right, and now
water
that's why
supply.
the gap analysis is really needed, because of the septic, I guess, question coming up as far as how to protect the
and
drinking
the
water.
only other question I had, Christine, was, after you take the 150 off with what you have, the 670 or whatever it is that's left, are you comfortable? I know we have another list of proposed projects, but for the ones that are funded but less mature or unprocured, are you comfortable that that's still a comfortable reserve
Yes.
until we
yeah.
get some more clarity around those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I guess just to elaborate a little more on the MWRA, because it's the what's permitting. So the questions we would ask is have them outline what permitting would be required, what are the requirements, because also there currently are some requirements to be an MWRA sewer community. You have to be a water community, or not sorry, be a water community, but there's certain restrictions on water. So you have to look at that requirement. And also like what type of corridor is available, what type of easement. So it's really going through that whole analysis to see what it would entail with an estimated cost as well.
So,
Okay.
I'm sorry. So we would have, through this feasibility study, we would have the answers as to whether we are truly an MWRA district, meaning,
If we could
and I guess
be.
the, questions, like, is all of our sewer now part of the MWRA district? Because we take on sewer, do we now become an MWRA water district? Some of what you just mentioned, but through this feasibility study, we'll have the answers to those kinds of questions.
So I think what we're targeting is to add capacity, not necessarily to become an entirely MWRA town, like townwide, because you would have to internally repipe a lot of our infrastructure. So what we were looking at is some of the commercial areas in 129, that's the closest to Bedford and Burlington. So if you take some of that capacity and you expand that capacity, I think that's what we were looking at. If you look at if you take the whole town and put that to MWRA, that's, I guess, another question. We were thinking that the focus would be to add capacity and just looking at a portion of the town, and that would be the areas closest to Burlington or
Okay,
Bedford.
that would be what I would be interested in, because I would not want to see Chelmsford become an MWRA total district.
Sure.
But if there's, if we can section off a part of the town to fulfill requirements for sewer, I'd be all in favor, but the MWRA brings a lot of different things that I don't think this town's ready for, so. Anyway.
Well, and this is really considered a long-term solution, is it not? I mean, it's not.
Yes, this is long-term, and I guse also we have to see if is it feasible. That's the thing, is we don't know if it's not. So we might go through this process and say this isn't an option. 2012 or about, we did the report, could we have an in-town treatment plant to be able to do our own? And that report has 3 locations potentially proposed, but really when you look at those locations, it's not really viable. So that kind of that put that idea behind us. So this is what I see as the next opportunity. But if someone said, is this feasible? I hope it is, but I don't know. I don't know. We have to go through that process to understand it. So this would be the next steps to see if it's feasible.
Okay.
Long term too, yes.
Sure. Okay. Any other?
Has there been any conversation with some of our neighbors, our neighboring towns, about whether they're interested? I mean, I know there's other towns around us in the region that are having similar capacity issues, and
So I think we're unique in that, so there's other towns that have similar capacity, but they're able to find that capacity elsewhere or connect to the MWRA. We're unique in that we haven't had the ability to add capacity just going to a neighbor.
But I think some of them might also be kind of thinking about maybe going this way. They'd probably be interested to see what our feasibility study comes up with.
Yeah, I know,
So,
like Tingsboro, I think was actually looking to add capacity by going up to Nashua. I know we reached out to Billerica. They weren't interested in selling us some capacity in Lowell. We said we're very interested, but they right now don't have that ability to give us that capacity. So that would be really the local options. And so beyond that, we have to look at MWA.
Yeah, it just occurs to me as far as, running a pipeline from Bedford or wherever, it's, there might be other communities in this area that would be interested in
Joining.
a project like that also, because it would benefit them also, right? in the long
Potentially.
term.
Yeah, I guess that's something that we haven't explored that yet, but that's something to think about.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions? And does anybody have any thoughts about these three items to add them to the ARPA project list?
Paul, is it possible that Lowell could be cut back a little bit because of the problems they're having? That, in other words, if they have a capacity now.
No, the whole situation is that their facility can operate above their permitted capacity. So we don't seeing any changes coming out of Lowell, and they're in the midst of a consent order with the EPA to basically remove the infiltration from their combined storm water sewer system, which we're going to be assessed some of those costs because that's pipeline work. So no, we're not seeing anything. The problem with the Lowell facility is there's no room for expansion at the island where the treatment plant is. So that's why we're looking at other ones, long-term solutions. And as Christine noted, things are looking towards Nashua. Drake is looking towards Methuen. When we've reached out to our neighboring communities, Burke has said they're not interested in because they own their own system. And so this is really what is sort of our only option to find out long-term is there the ability to connect down the Route 3 corridor to Bedford and Burlington. And that's what we need to find out is it feasible? What's the downstream capacity of the piping there and their ability, because they only recently took on Burlington as an MWRA community, and we just need to find out what the logistics are there, if it's feasible, and if it is feasible, what kind of permitting is involved, as she said, what kind of time is involved, and what kind of cost is involved. So at least give us a scope of a long-term option, because as was noted, the in-town ones aren't feasible. The EPA will not allow a community to site a wastewater treatment plant on the river and discharge into the river. So what you see happening in Lowell and what you see happening upstream in the Merrimack is no longer allowed. So we could not build like at Southwell and then discharge. The other problem with Southwell practically is right across from Southwell is the low water intake. So there's another reason why that could not happen in today's world. So because of those constraints, we've identified with DPW that the only potential one that we don't have enough information on right now is there an ability to connect down to the MWRA sewer capacity at the same time that the Speaker of the House of Representatives is talking about expanding the MWRA water districts, including Chelmsford. And that's been, the town of Chelmsford water districts were approached over a year ago about their interest in joining MWRA as a water supply for the Quabbin Reservoir. And the reason for that is the Quabbin Reservoir today has no PFAS at environmental concern levels. And so they're looking, and they have capacity. So the question is will the MWRA expand its water system to the adjacent MWRA communities, which is an equity issue out in the central part of the state, but also to the south of Boston towards Brockton, and then also up along the Route 3 corridor. So that's going on for the water side and the house side, and what we're looking to do is get an answer on the sewer determination for Chelmsford, because that's not going on at a macro level, and that's what we want to see. Is it technically possible, and if so, what are we talking in terms of permitting, cost, and time? To at least give Chelmsford the ability to plan long-term if that's something we want to do.
Thank you.
Okay, so any thoughts about adding these three topics to our ARPA list at this point? As Christine has said, we could get these done fairly quickly before the cost would go up, I'm sure. And we do have, it looks like we do have the flexibility to apply those funds to it. So I guess I would favor it. I don't know how everybody else feels.
I would
I
favor.
think it's a sound recommendation.
Thank you.
And the studies can be all completed
We usually do.
on time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
in a timely manner.
Yeah, I would think that these studies would take place over the next few months. I know that there's in terms of some of the consultants we're working with, they have a back order, but that's something that we're looking to get done, I would say, the next few months, hopefully. Worst case, I would say by the end of the summer, potentially.
So if we could have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to, oh goodness, I might need help with this one. I'll make a motion to approve the ARPA funding for the 3 projects presented by our DPW Director, Christine Clancy, this evening. First being to install an oil water separator at the fire mechanics garage at 54 Richardson Road for $75,000. Second being $35,000 to perform a gap analysis for protection of the town's groundwater and drinking water. And third, $40,000 towards a feasibility assessment of providing additional sewer capacity through the MWRA.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thanks, Christina. And you have another report?
I do have
for
an
us?
update tonight, a brief update. We have provided sewer updates, and I'd like to just provide an update. We do monitor our flows daily, but we're really looking at the flow. And so before you is a graph that we do update monthly. It shows the monthly flow from Chelmsford, and then the red is the monthly, or the maroon's monthly flow from Chelmsford and Tingsboro combined. The green line that is shown is the monthly sewer capacity that we are allocated, and it works out to be, it is a rolling average, but it's 87 million gallons a month. So when you look at where we've exceeded, 11 of the 13 past months have exceeded sewer capacity. If we go back over a year ago where we had a drought, our flows were down. What we're seeing, and then here in blue, is you can see that we monitor the monthly amounts of rainfall. And if you go back to like December 23, where we had, I think it was 8 inches of rain, that impacts groundwater, or the snow melt. And our flows the month after it really skyrocketed. And then even in March, so this past March, our flows were 97.37, combined with Chelmsford Tingsboro 105. And again, we did have some rainfall month. If you drive around, groundwater so high. With the groundwater being so high and also the increased rainfall, there's a clear indication of that II is in the system. This is what we've been tracking in the past couple months. So that is our short-term and mid-term opportunities, is how do we remove that from the system. And I presented, I believe it was last month, where we have some initiatives right now. We have a sump pump removal program or identification program. So that's one part of it. We also identified 200 manholes around town that we're lining to remove some infiltration from the system. We're using that capacity to be able to sell as part of our sewer capacity policy. That's where commercial businesses can buy into that policy. So I just want to give you that update, but also some other updates with the sewer division. So we are tracking, whenever we find a manhole, we also periodically go around town and just look at, and do sewer or manhole inspections. And sometimes we do find infiltration outside of any of the previous inspections we did. So just in the past month, we found 4 manholes. But those manholes, the infiltration was 3 to 8 gallons a minute. And if you do the math, that's actually 27,000 gallons a day of inflow that is just going to be treated, that we can remove from the system. We can only really take credit for 50%. That's part of DEP's requirement. But basically, just this last Monday, we use injection grouting with inland waters to repair those manholes. And we put 14,000 gallons back into our bank, which is great. So this is just, it's a small amount, but that small amount allows the business to, proceed with being able to purchase capacity. So we're continuing those efforts. We know that with groundwater high, that we have, there's a clear correlation. So we'll continue to look for areas where we can reduce inflow from the system. And we have the smoke testing pilot that will be coming out this summer. And then lastly, so I did mention the ARPA update. One of the ARPA projects was to install upgrading the flow meters at 5 of our stations. Eventually, we want to do it to all 41 stations and 2 of our metering stations, but we are just finishing that project right now. Everything's been installed. Right now is the training to to really onboard to be able to monitor. Right now, we have an alarm system where we're notified, but this is something that's so remotely. I can go into my phone and monitor the flows really real time, and it's great to be able to correlate that during rain events too. So this should hopefully provide some additional monitoring so we can monitor and see when we understand the system a bit more. So those are Drumhill, Technology, Katrina, Southwell, and Edgewood. So that's just wrapping up, and I just wanted to provide that update.
Okay. Any other questions for Christine before we let her go?
May I ask a question?
No, you can't. Not as part of the meeting, anyway.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda, we're going to go back to the 255 Princeton Street Development Agreement modifications. We started talking about this at our last meeting. I know there has been some activity on it. Chrissy, you're going to present that? Okay.
Sure, I can give you a quick, just recap of where we were. Paul, if you could go to slide 20 of the presentation. So essentially, the three significant concerns that the state has identified with this development agreement is related to the capacity, the affordability, and the age restrictions. The development agreement capacity puts us 77 units below compliance. The affordability is exceeding the current level of 10% at 15. And then the age restriction is in direct conflict with the regulations. So we are recommending, based on our analysis of all of the options, that the developer agreement is amended to remove those restrictions from the developer agreement or development agreement. And based on what we went over last meeting and the timeline of when we're recommending doing this, we feel that it is extremely low risk for the town. I know that there were some concerns about the commitment from the developers that were raised at the last meeting. So I know Evan and Paul Haverty met with the developers, and Paul, you can probably give an update as to that meeting as well.
Certainly. So we did, in fact, have a meeting both with representatives from Trammell Crow and from the Chelmsford Housing Authority's Choice. And we were able to get them to agree to a letter agreement that essentially states that they are willing to make whatever changes are ultimately deemed necessary by EOHLC in order for the town's MBTA community zoning to be compliant with the statute. The Choice had one proviso, which is that they acknowledged that whatever changes that are made must be revenue neutral as it relates to Choice, which I think is relating to the $360,000 payment in lieu for the affordable housing that would then be going to the Choice development. As Chris had noted, there are three main components to the concerns raised by EOHLC, but they also did raise concerns regarding the mitigation payments. So those include $250,000 for the tip plans, $100 per parking space, $30,000 for a historical display, the $360,000 payment in lieu, and then $180,000 for school impacts. They didn't expressly state that these wouldn't be allowed. What they said is that they needed to review them in a little greater detail so that they can determine whether or not these are the kinds of impact mitigation measures that can be imposed during an as-of-right permitting process. For the most part, I think they absolutely can. And in particular, the $360,000 payment in lieu is actually an alternative to to creating the affordable housing units that are required under our local bylaw. So I don't see that as being a problem. The $180,000 for school impacts, maybe. The state will say you can't impose that as part of this type of process, but we don't really have that feedback yet.
Did we get any sense for how long it would take HLC to get back to us on that?
I asked them to get back to us prior to tonight's meeting, and they said that it was very unlikely they would.
Okay. How about before?
The problem is that it's not just Chelmsford that they're dealing with when it comes to these types of development agreements. These development agreements are very popular throughout the state when you're talking about a development that's being done pursuant to a zoning change. So there are a number of different municipalities, and they want to make sure that they've got a handle on all of the potential outcomes before they make any, binding determinations. So it may be several months still before we get anything definitive. So what we did is we got the letter agreement from the parties to the development agreements that indicate that they will work with us to make whatever changes are deemed necessary.
Okay. So, Krista, do you have anything else that you wanted to add at this point?
No, that's it.
Okay, so.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So Paul, it may be several months, I get that. If town meeting passes this warrant article, can we force the issue with the state by modifying the development agreement only with respect to these three parameters and getting it submitted to get them to approve it? The financial ones really concern me. And I don't know, like, I get it. I just don't like sitting around waiting. Like,
Understood.
is there a way to, if town meeting passes this, and we've said we would, in principle, I think last meeting, the board members said we support those three big ones. And the financial was up in question at that time too, and it's still up in question. So if we were to, I know we might run the risk of exercising the development agreement more than once, but if we were to do it with eyes wide open with the partners in that agreement,
It's absolutely an option. As part of this process, we are going to have to submit the approved zoning change, that comes out of town meeting. We're going to have to submit whatever revisions to the development agreement that we at least think are going to be necessary. We can submit that to EOHLC and say, here you go, we have a completed package. Can you let us know if this is sufficient? And if they come back and say, no, we need these other provisions from the development agreement removed, then we go back to the parties and make those changes. We just have to make sure that we leave a sufficient amount of time for that to happen before the deadline.
well, and I guess we need to understand where we stand if they come back. So you said the $360K in lieu of is a standard permit. We could probably rationalize that.
It's
as a
already in
standard.
our bylaws for the
But what
affordable.
about the other items, like,
Paid too.
huh?
They've all been paid to the town.
Oh, they've already paid?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so even if we take them out, the money's not going away?
Well,
We don't give it back?
No.
No.
Okay. As long as we don't have to give it back.
We're not aware of the state going into projects that are already under construction and then basically unraveling them. And so, yeah, the money's already been paid to the
They
town.
paid all those?
And-
Okay.
In order to get their building permits, yes.
Okay,
And again, these are
Piece.
pretty standard mitigation fees for these types of projects.
Right.
So I don't think that ultimately EOHLC is going to have a problem with them, but I just wanted to make sure I pointed them out.
thank you.
Okay. All right, since the topic of this, that we're talking about is that development agreement and potential modifications to it, the abutters were notified that we were going to be having this meeting today and were offered the opportunity to speak to us. So if there's anybody that would like to at this point, I'd ask you to not be repetitive. There's a few issues that this is going to impact, and so we'll take your comments. As you can see, it's still not finalized at this point. There still may be additional things that we need to consider, but we'll take your input at this time. Anybody want to speak? Oh, Ms. Spence, beat you to it.
Good evening. Jan Spence, 4 Door Knock Circle, North Chelmsford. Sorry, my voice is a little hoarse today. I have a couple of questions just for clarification. Chris, can you tell me exactly what the current zoning is for Windermere? We've had a number of different.
I just have to look at the,
Sure.
I believe the current zoning,
Chris, I think it allows the 15 units per
Single
acre.
family,
Yeah.
I believe,
It already does.
No,
was
it-
what the last thing we were told.
The existing zoning allows the 15 units per acre that would have been required under the MBTA zoning.
for Windermere?
Oh, for Windermere.
Yeah, she's
Windermere.
asking about Windermere.
Windermere, yeah, I believe that, Evan. You can probably clarify this, but I think that is single
I
family.
didn't know Evan was here.
Good evening. Windermere is zoned single-family RB. The project that's actually there, Windermere, was approved as a 40B.
It's single family.
It's zoned single-family, but with the Windermere project is approved as a 40B development.
And what's the density of that 40B that was approved?
I think it's 8 units an acre. How many units are total in Windermere?
Oh, 56.
56, and it's on 10 acres, right? Is it on 10 acres?
Thank you.
I'm not sure.
So
if it is.
5.6.
Yep.
Thank you. My question is there a change in our zoning in this new proposal from single family?
So no, there is no change in the underlying zoning. It's an overlay proposal.
The overlay proposal is what I'm talking about. Does that change us from single to
No,
multi?
it allows whatever's there to stay as is, and then allows in the future, if a developer wants to come in on the overlay, they're allowed to do that as well. They have an option.
Okay,
Yeah,
and the option would be.
Are we getting from the development agreement to the Warren article? Are you
Yeah,
covering both at the same
right.
time?
I mean,
I-
I think
they're
I think they are
related.
related.
Yeah,
I'm okay with.
I'm
Okay, all right.
All right. The other issue that I have with this is you want to reopen the development agreement. And I understand the ins and outs and all of that and what the agreement is currently. You need 77 more units. If the state has said that to you, and the state has also got the age restriction issues that they're dealing with, and you don't have a current okay from the state for all of this, why would you bring it to town meeting now? It just seems precipitous. Why wouldn't you wait to get the okay? You're saying, all right, let's put it before town meeting. If you get approval, then you can turn all this back into the state again, and the state can turn around and say, no, we told you what we need.
Well,
You're assuming that they're going to accept
I-
not having the 77 additional units. And it's very hard for us to accept. It's a leap of faith.
right, I understand it is for the entire town. And we do understand that there are some contingencies, and it's almost like the chicken and egg thing. You know, do we do this first, or do we wait till we get more guidance from the state, or when are we going to get guidance? And I think it is, in some ways, it is a leap of faith.
Pat?
Sure.
I think also, I don't know if everybody who's here from the public heard the whole briefing last time, so I don't know, would it be appropriate to have someone from the planning board clarify the risk assessment that they made, that there is no room to even build 77, or?
Chris, if you'd like to review that. So Chris will kind of touch a little bit on that, on what we know and what we know. I mean, there's a lot we don't know.
Right.
That's the issue, and I think that's where our trepidation comes in, is you're really not certain of what the outcome of this whole thing is supposed to be, and yet you're asking us to put our trust in that. We might feel a little better if we had something in writing that said, all right, this is what is going to happen. But no one can say that, and I understand that because you don't have final judgment from the state. But I think this is very anticipatory to put it before town meeting at this point in time. And it's it doesn't seem necessary. I know that the planning board's worked hard on this. I understand that, and I know they don't want to go back to square one, nor do you. However, this is kind of setting forth something that isn't a finished product, let's say.
Okay, I
Town
mean,
meeting.
okay, so let's hear Chris give his presentation that he gave a couple of weeks ago about the likelihood of these things happening, of what's going to happen, and for the benefit of anybody here who hasn't heard that. And yes, we understand what it is you're saying. We really do. We understand that we're taking a leap of faith too, and we have to work with the state, and but we have other things, other obligations that, quite frankly, could hurt us more than help us in the long run. So
It just feels like we're being used as, not as a scapegoat per se, but, all right, that's expendable, that part of town, we'll put that forth as our
well,
proposal.
I don't think we ever.
I know you wouldn't agree with that.
Okay.
However, I'm just telling you.
Okay.
I'm the person who lives in the house,
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, it is. It's very concerning.
Okay, I know, it is concerning to a lot of people. I
Sure.
agree, sure. Okay,
And that would be, our issue.
okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul, if you could go to the planning board strategy slide, we can start there. Number 6. So essentially, our strategy was to minimize any impacts to town, to any neighborhood, to any town, any part of town. We wanted to minimize the likelihood of short-term development, so we wanted to select an area that is not open for development, that is not underutilized, and is actually currently built up. We wanted to also select areas that are currently developed and have an extremely low probability of being redeveloped. And this is why we selected the condo associations as one of the areas. We did look at other areas, but in most cases, the areas that we did look at had a high probability of being developed. Areas that, for example, River Neck Road, we knew that as soon as we pass this in town meeting, the developer is likely to develop it almost immediately. And we know that that is going to be problematic and have a lot of negative consequences for town. If you scroll to the districts reviewed, these shows some of the other areas. And while there are some areas that might benefit from this type of zoning, because it is controlled by the state, we wanted to have a little bit more control for the areas that might take advantage of this. So Vinyl Square is one example. The Route 110 retail area on the other slide. These are areas that if we did put this overlay in place, they might be developed fairly soon or in the medium term, but we wanted a little bit more control over these areas from a local perspective. So that's why we did not select these. If you go to the...
Chris, I was mainly wanting you to go through why you think the amending of the development agreement is a low risk.
Okay.
Maybe if you could
So we
you know,
can-
kind of
we
focus
can
on
scroll
that,
to
because
that
that's
one.
what we're mainly here to talk about.
So this is the first. This is the first indication that it's extremely low risk, because as the site is laid out right now, and as the condo units are also in place, there is absolutely no space for a developer to put the 77 units and parking. They would have to completely re-lay out the property, which is unrealistic at this point in development. It's fully financed, fully permitted, under active construction, so they're not likely to change course in this case. If you scroll to the next slide. The additional changes would also require them to, if we do this development agreement change after July 1st, which is what the planning board is recommending, the energy stretch code would apply to any new permits pulled. So if they did change the design, it would require new permits to be pulled for new development, and that would require them to comply with the new stretch code, which would be extremely expensive and cost prohibitive. They would also have to refile under the MIPA laws, so they would have to go through that whole process. They would have to refile with the Planning Board and Conservation Commission and go through those site reviews. They would have to add capacity to their wastewater treatment system and get additional reviews and approvals from DEP, which is highly unlikely. They would also have to add capacity to their North Chelmsford Water District capacity. And so given all of these, that's why we're proposing the timeline that we proposed to you last meeting, where we go to town meeting with this proposal as early as possible. And part of the reason for that is because the longer we wait to pass something at town meeting, the more chance the state can come back to us and say, we've reviewed all these other plans. This is the trend we're seeing. We need you to follow this guideline, this new guideline. They can keep adding new requirements for us at this stage. And we have to comply with those before the deadline. If we pass zoning at town meeting and it's approved by the state district attorney, then we're able to buy us some time, and if the state requires changes, we can go through the full process again of changing the zoning. It gives us a little bit of extra time so that we don't have to comply by that deadline. If we submit the full proposal to the state and they see changes that might need to be made, we have a chance to speak with the state again to negotiate the deadline, talk to them about what changes we might need, what additional time we may need to bring it to town meeting again. The other reason why we're recommending to go to town meeting sooner rather than later is because if we do get voted down at town meeting, that gives us an additional time to go back to the drawing board and redo whatever aspect of the proposal we need to in order to get it passed to town meeting. And if we wait till the fall town meeting, we have only a few weeks to actually make that happen. And it's completely unrealistic that we would be able to do that in that short of time frame. So that's why we're proposing to do that town meeting step now, with the caveats that, yes, we have these other development agreement concerns that we're working through. But in concept, this is really the best option for the town at this point.
Okay, thank you.
And Madam Chair, can I just point out something about the uncertainty of going back to EOHLC?
Sure.
I think that there would be uncertainty if the plan was to go back and try to have a denser district on the 110 portion and keep the unit limitation on the West Campus portion. But if you're just eliminating the total unit restriction from the development agreement on the West Campus, that solves all of the issue with regards to the concerns raised by EOHLC. That still leaves the other issues with regards to the mitigation payments unresolved, but there wouldn't be any potential that EOHLC is going to come back and say, you've modified your development agreement, it's eliminated this cap, but we still don't like it. That's not really at all realistic.
Okay. Thank you. So you would advise us to move as quickly as we could on this, quite frankly, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So is there anybody else that would like to address the board about this? Now, keep in mind, we are mainly focusing on a development agreement, although we know it does, it is impacting everything else we talk about having to do with Article 26 on the town meeting.
Ed Duffin, 270 Princeton Street. Unfortunately, I'm right across the street from the 300 trees, unfortunately, Arbor Day coming up, that we lost. We don't have anymore. So if we get this turned down at the town meeting, what happens to everything that's happened? West Campus is still going to survive. They're still going to build.
Correct.
Why are we even involved with the MBTA? The towns.
We don't have a choice.
Oh, we do. We do have a choice. You know we have a choice because other towns are doing it. And all the towns should get together and fight the state. Because first of all, I don't trust Trim McCrow at all. And second of all, I don't trust a bunch of politicians on Beacon Hill with a bunch of crayons making the zoning lines. That should be up to the town of Chelmsford as to where the zoning is, not the people down in Beacon Hill. So why, if that it's going to be built, I think the town is making a stupid decision by not joining with other towns. What are we going to lose? We're going to lose money? Is that the penalty? We lose money, correct?
I don't know what else we're going to lose. I mean, you know, you can make whatever statement you want.
I go
but
to what other towns are doing the same thing, and they say, well, you're not going to get $110,000 in federal aid, or in aid, state aid. You know what that is?
We don't know how much it is, and quite frankly, I mean,
doesn't matter.
you can
They
make
are
your rhetorical points, but please make your rhetorical points.
They are
and then-
forcing you to do something, and if you don't, they're going to take your tax money away. That is wrong. No, I don't care how much you look. If you're paying taxes and you say, I don't want to comply, I don't want to be a member of this, because we're not even an MBTA town. We're a nearby town. We don't even have an MBTA even in this town. But somehow we have to comply. I don't get it. Why do we have to comply?
Okay.
We don't. I know you want me to leave because this is what happened last time. You told me to get out.
I did not.
Just saying, I'm at the planning board. They shut me down at the planning board. And I'm just saying, this whole thing with the MBTA is ridiculous. Zoning should be left up to the towns and the people in the towns. And that should be it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? No.
Good evening, Rick Mahoney, 8 Dornock Circle. Just a couple of questions. I'm concerned sitting here listening to this that we know the state is probably going to change things as it goes along, so I'm not sure the state knows what they're doing overall in this thing. Just as a matter of course, 15 units per acre, if you're looking at West Campus alone, that's 34 acres, that's 510 units. They want us to increase it to another 77, make it 471. They're still short about 40 units. So I'm not sure the state has their proverbial together at this point in time. And it feels like this is being kind of ramrodded down the townspeople. It's more like, not enough time to do it right. There's not enough time to do it right. There's enough time to do it over. And I don't see what the harm is waiting to find out what EOHLC comes back to us and says on the proposal. I'm also not sure what's wrong waiting to see what's going to happen with the town of Milton. That's right. That could blow the whole thing up in ways we have no idea what's going on. I mean, whether we join Milton or not, that's a different question. You guys are way better to decide that kind of situation. But it's going to change, and it's going to change again. And we're going to have to go back to town meeting one more time, minimum, at this rate, with this proposal. I'm not sure why it needs to be passed this quickly.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Fred Santino. I live at 27 Windermere. I've been a project engineer my whole life. I also teach at Boston University, so I know what I'm talking about. I've seen loser projects, and I'm not going to give you the horror stories, but I've seen them. Right away when I read the letter I received, we had planned for so many units, we don't have enough parking. The spec is wrong. Get rid of it. It's a loser project right away. I've seen projects totally continue because, we got to keep going, we got to keep going. No. That's the time to terminate it when you haven't spent a dime yet, right? And change it or whatever. The other thing is, I don't hear anybody talking about wetlands or the effect on flooded basements and things. I've seen that happen in Arlington. There was a lot of construction on Route 2. All of a sudden, all the Arlington basins were flooded when they built the MBTA. Never came up at all in the discussions of it. So I think this could be a loser of a project if they don't change it right away. And I don't see why you need Windermere and Augusta Way to do it. I mean, just put some housing at that site, and that's fine. And they shouldn't take down all those trees. I agree with him. Here we are talking about Arbor Day, and they knocked down all those damn trees. All the animals that live there, all the deer running around and everything, you know. What are we doing to the environment? That's what's climate change, knocking down the forest and everything. So anyway, thank you for letting me speak, and I'm sorry to get a little bit hot into the collar, but I think it's a loser of a project. I really do. And, I hope to stay in my condo.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Do we have anybody on Zoom, Paul?
No, there's nobody on Zoom.
Okay. So our next step is to vote on, for this board, to take a recommendation on Article 26 of the town meeting about whether to go forward with the proposed districts that the planning board has put forward for the MBTA zoning articles. And Chris, I'm assuming, is still going to act as the planning board representative. Does anybody have any questions for Chris specific to?
Are we going to hear
from
both
Doreen.
articles like they're going to do at town meeting?
Yeah, we can do that, because we do have the proponent
Right.
for 27. As soon as we finish any presentations or questions on this one, we can go to 27 and then do them at the same time, sure.
Thank you.
So in addition to the article, I think what the planning board is looking for at this point from the select board is also a vote on whether to amend the developer agreement as well. One of the things that we're looking for is the support from the select board to amend that developer agreement.
At a future date.
At a future date, yes. So that's what we'd be looking for
Right.
as well, and
We-
that's
we
also
don't-
what
we
the
don't know.
finance committee has been waiting for from their vote.
What were you going to say, Virginia?
I was just going to say, we don't know what we're voting on.
Oh.
I think we said last time, and we can poll it again, that we were supportive if town meeting decides to pass this, that we were supportive of the 3 changes that were proposed to go forward with that. I think if we're not, we'd vote no on the article.
I would agree with that.
You know,
So, yeah, I guess I question, Chris, why we need a specific vote.
I'm sorry, Pat, I really appreciate the formal letter that Attorney Haverty was able to get today, and I think that should go in the town meeting packet, because it carries a lot more weight than just verbal conversations that have gone on before.
I think I would appreciate another poll, again, just after the public concerns have been heard. It would be reassuring to also have a second poll from the select board, because there are also other reasons why someone may vote no on the article, not just the development agreement. So it would help to have both pieces.
I would
of
suggest that we should hear both articles before we even take that vote, just in fairness, to have the whole picture and perspective.
So is there anything else you'd like to tell us about Article 26 before we
Nothing
listen
that I
to-
haven't discussed at the last meeting as well.
Okay. All right, then at this point, I'll ask Doreen Deschler to come up and talk about Article 27, and we have the new presentation that she provided this
No,
afternoon.
you don't have time to read this, but this is It's a letter from the MMA that was sent to Governor Baker asking him to veto this bill when he first put it.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I got the wrong slide. All right. You got the
Do
old
you
one,
have the
okay.
new one?
Let me see if I can find the new
It might be on the amended agenda, Paul.
All right, I can go with it.
It's,
I'll
no,
grab
it's
it.
okay,
I'll-
we
I'll
can
grab
get
it. Let me-
it.
James, you sent that this afternoon.
Right.
I know,
Yes.
I redid
It is
it.
an amended agenda.
Put it in there. No, I think, I'm gonna vote for this stuff. Yeah, no, I think.
There it is. That's the planning board's.
That's the planning board. Yeah.
Well, Doreen, if you want to begin speaking, we all have your most recent presentation, and Paul can, I'm sure he'll come up with it in a minute or
Okay,
two.
yeah, okay. So my presentation is going to be to ask the town meeting reps to vote no on this mandate, or this statute, I call it. The reason why I'm asking them to vote no is, one, there are 2 lawsuits currently in the courts, and I don't think that we should be voting on something that is in the courts right now. We usually don't change zoning bylaws in the middle of a lawsuit, for one. We never have been allowed to do a warrant article to be discussed during an active lawsuit, there is an active lawsuit going on right now. There are 2 active lawsuits, and they should be there. That's the old one, but I can go with it.
I don't think it's there. He didn't put it on the amended
Paul,
agenda.
I had sent it to you.
All
Yeah,
right,
but it's
so
not online.
I guess you can start it from the beginning there. I'll just have to use that one. Guess you can't find the amended one.
Unless you have it in.
Yeah, so
It's not
anyways, the reason why I'm saying no to this as also is because it's an unconstitutional act. The Massachusetts Constitution gives us the right of self-government through the Home Rule Article 89. Article 2, Section 1 of the Home Rule is the right of local self-government. Okay, it is the intention of this article to reaffirm that the customary and traditional liberties of the people with respect to the conduct of local government, and to grant and confirm to the people of every city and town the right of self-government in local matters, subject to provisions of this article and to such standards and requirements as the general court, not attorney general, not governor, not mandate, not guidelines, but court may establish. So only a court can take these away from us, except we can vote them away. Like, if we go to town meeting, and town meeting reps say, okay, yes on this Article 27, we're gonna give the MBTA mandate, we're gonna say yes to it, we have just given away our constitutional right of self-government. When we vote away our constitutional right, it'd be much harder to get those rights back. It's hard to get a constitutional right. It's easy to give them away, okay? So when we say yes, we are giving that constitutional right of self-government away. Like I said, we shouldn't even be talking about it because it's in the court system right now. It's still being, right now there are 2 lawsuits currently in the court deciding on the constitutionality of this mandate, this statute. The original bill, yeah, there it is, the original bill, I don't know if it's up there. Yeah, there's the 2 lawsuits. Okay, so there's challenging the constitutionality of the bill. CMHA versus Holden filed in the Worcester Supreme Court is now under appeal in the Mass Appellate Court. On December, the court's decision ruled against the CMHA and stated that Holden agreeably correct that the subsection B requires forfeiture of state funding for state housing projects if they do not comply with subsection A, an opt-out clause. That's an opt-out clause. So in other words, if you say we're not going to comply, you have an opt-out. You don't get the state grants. Those grants are those three different, I don't know if they're up there. There's three different grant, yeah, I don't know if they're up there. Hey. Oh, go back. Back one more. One more back. Okay, here it is. The bill contain, oh, no, that's not it either. Dang. Oh, there it is. Communities in this group that fail to create a zoning district with as-of-right multifamily development will be ineligible for funds from the Mass Works Program, the Housing Choice Initiative, or the State Local Capital Projects Fund. That is what's written in the bill. That is the bill that was voted on by the legislator. That is the bill the legislator passed. That is the only bill that the legislator passed. That's the only thing that the state can do to us if we do not comply, is they can take away those grants that we're not guaranteed that we're going to get those grants in the first place. We may or we may not get the grant. But either way, that's the only thing they can do to us by law, because that's the only thing that's written in the law that they can do. There's nothing written about the state taking extra things away, which is why Milton is in a lawsuit right now, and why they have countered suit against the state, because there's nothing in that bill that says that they can do what they're trying to do. That's why Holden basically won their lawsuit, and why the state's not going after Holden or any other town. They're just going after Milton, because Milton is, you know, an MBTA community, basically, because they have that little T turnaround thing or whatever they have there. And they're trying to make an example out of Holden, Milton. So anyways, I'm not having the right thing there. I'm getting confused. Anyways, the reason why it's unconstitutional is because of the Home Rule Amendment. Amendment 89 in the Massachusetts Constitution states that, I don't know if it's in there. There it is. It is the intention of this article to reaffirm that the customary and traditional liberties of the people with respect to the conduct of their local government, and to grant and confirm to the people of every city and town the right of self-government in local matters, subject to the provision. That gives the local towns and cities, and also it's, if you had the other one, it has our town constitution as well in the other slides that I sent you. And in our town constitution, it also states that we have the right to zone our own towns. That the state doesn't have the right to zone it. We do. But like I said, if we send this to the town committee and they vote yes on it, we lose our constitutional right of self-government. We've just signed it away. We've just given it away to the state. And we don't have it anymore. And if we go and do this before these court proceedings are done, before we know what's going to happen in the Supreme Judicial Court, which, like I said, there's 2 lawsuits in the Supreme Judicial Court right now, and they are challenging the constitutionality of these mandates. These are mandates, these are guidelines, these are not laws. Mandates are not laws, statutes are not laws, guidelines are not laws. These are not laws. These are statutes, mandates, and guidelines, not laws. Only a court can justify what a law is, or say what a law is. And the court has not told us yet what the law is. So we need to wait to find out what the court has to say. Find out what the court says is law and isn't law before we decide to sign on to anything. Because if we go sign on right now, it doesn't matter what the court says. If the court comes back and says this is unconstitutional, we just signed on to something that's unconstitutional and we just lost our rights. And there's nothing we're going to be able to do about it.
Okay.
We should wait.
Does anybody have any questions for Doreen?
Doreen, in the handout that, Doreen?
Yep.
In the paper that you provided,
Yep.
you make a statement about the hearing being scheduled in October. Could you
Yes.
expand on your knowledge of that?
Well,
Is
it's
that-
written right in the.
Was it in this one too?
Yeah, it was in this too.
Okay,
That
sorry, I
yeah.
missed that.
Yep.
Thank
Yep.
you.
I think it's in there. No. Well, it's. That is when the hearing is going to be. The hearing is coming up in October for the Milton case.
And then there'll be a period of deliberation and delay before there's a decision? Paul Haverty, is that typically the process?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, this being a matter of significant concern for public policy, I'm sure that they will put it on a fast track. But I've never heard of the SJC ruling from the bench.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so at this point, at this time, we will make our recommendations or discuss whether to make any recommendations on Articles 26 and 27. Does anybody want to begin that discussion? Okay, then I will. You know, I've listened to the arguments for and against this. I think our best way forward is to approve Article 26 and then see where things go from there, as far as the Attorney General, as far as HLC. If you don't mind, I'm speaking. So I would vote in favor of Article 26 at this time. I think the Planning Board has made tremendous efforts on this. They've, as has been mentioned, they looked at many different neighborhoods and other areas to lay out these potential zoning areas, MBTA zoning areas. I think what they've come up with is very good suggestions, and I think we need to move forward with it at this time. And so I would vote yes on Article 26 and no on Article 27. Anybody else have any comments?
I think fundamentally, when you look at any other alternatives to what's currently proposed in Article 26, the two areas of Littleton Road and the UMass West campus provide extremely low risk that somebody's going to come in and demolish what's there or start all over again. And my concern about the other areas in town are, if you look at the Radisson or UPS or River Neck Road, those are areas that are ripe for total redevelopment, where there aren't, if UPS were to leave and sell, someone could come in right away and put up thousands of units. And similarly with the Radisson and the River Neck Road and some of the other areas, they are much more ripe for complete redevelopment than the two areas the planning board has chosen, which, I can't see in the next 3 decades that somebody's going to come in and tear it down and start all over again. But I think as a town, if we decide to be compliant with the statute, it's a question of what's the lowest risk to the town for massive development quickly. And that's kind of where my head is at right now.
Okay. George? Yes.
Well, I'm in favor of this for these reasons right now because of some of the things that
George, can you get to
Virginia
the
just
microphone?
mentioned, but I think
Can you help him with?
I have a lot of confidence. I'm sorry. Thank you. I have confidence in Trammell Crow. I have confidence in the planning board. I believe if we approve it at town meeting, we can amend it after July 1st. On July 1st, the building codes are going to change, which is going to probably increase the building cost up as much as maybe 20%, which again is going to have to be passed on to the end user, which would be the renters or the people leasing, and so the cost would be much higher, and so I'm in favor of it for that reason. I think they got a head start on it. They got 10, 15 million. They promised to use their own money. I don't think they're going to be, and they promised to be here for a minimum of 5 years, but I think they've changed that to staying here, which most of these developments are usually, the developer comes in and then they flip them to a REIT. I think that Trammell Crow has promised the town that they were going to stay here and manage the property, and they're a very successful company, and I just think it's, I'm voting yes.
Erin?
I'm struggling a little bit with this because I feel like the 40B part of it is not being addressed. And, I remember when this project was approved, a big part of the conversation at town meeting was the fact that it would bring our 40B numbers up to where we needed to be, to that 10% threshold. And it still does that, right? Which is part of the reason why I think it was approved at town meeting in the first place. Again, that's another state program, but, that was why it was approved in the first place. I think it's still going to do that for us. For that reason, I think it's the right project. And, I know as far as MBTA, the planning board did their homework, and I do think this was the best option out of all of them. So for a lot of reasons, I think it should move forward. Article 27, I understand the sentiment behind it. I am kind of in agreement. But I don't understand, I don't feel like these two articles actually should be one and the same. I think that this project has become a conversation that everybody is linking with MBTA, where in fact I kind of think it's maybe two separate conversations about whether we want this project and whether we want MBTA zoning. So, but I don't think that the two are exclusive, actually. I mean, so I'm still in favor of the article, but I might also be in favor of a bigger conversation about whether we want to comply with some of this going forward.
Okay.
That's it.
Pat?
I will be voting for Article 26 and against 27 for a lot of the reasons stated here, but also, when I look at things like this, I come at it from various approaches, and one of the approaches is our exposure. The town has a lot of exposure when we consider something like this, in as much as Virginia stated, we have exposure to immediate development that we may not expect or may not realize that this could come out of this. We have exposure if we don't go for the MBTA zoning that we're gonna lose some funding, and who knows what other kinds of legal issues and challenges could come out of that. So we've got exposure from a monetary point of view. We've got exposure from a development point of view. We have a lot of different areas of exposure here. I think I agree that the planning board has done some great work and has been very diligent to figure a path forward for us. And, right here, right now, being that it's low risk, I would say that, we could potentially, by making this move now, come out of this unscathed. Whereas in the future, if we see some kind of damages, we can change our mind and maybe get more aggressive. But I think right here, right now, I think this is a safe bet. I do agree that it's low risk, and I think as a protection mechanism for the town, I would vote in favor of this.
Okay. So can we have a motion for our recommendation?
I will make a motion to
Favorable.
to recommend
We're gonna do one at a time.
to recommend approval of Article 27.
And we can do them one at a time if you wanted.
Oh, sorry, Article 26.
Yeah,
Yeah, one at a time.
okay, so 26,
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 26.
okay.
Second.
Yeah, that's enough. All right, we have a motion to recommend approval of Article 26. All in favor?
Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Okay.
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 27.
Recommend how? Recommend approval or recommend?
Recommend
what?
approval of Article 27.
I'll
I'm just in
second
the
it.
affirmative. I'm doing everything in the
That's fine.
affirmative.
I'll second it.
I'm not. That's okay. I mean, this is only us, okay?
I'm still going to town meeting.
Yes.
Okay,
No.
all right.
All right, so we have a motion to recommend approval of Article 27.
Yes.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? You're in favor of 27?
No, 26.
Yeah, okay. All right, those opposed? I really hate doing this, but you know
The
that.
affirmative.
Deep breath, Pat.
Old
Sorry,
habits.
that's my fault.
I know, old
I
habits
know.
die hard.
Okay, so now we're going to go back to Article 2. So if you folks are leaving, please leave quietly. So Paul, I'll turn it over to you now to take us through these articles.
Okay. Article,
Why don't we give it a minute, Paul?
what's that?
Really depends, George, on different meetings, but.
Folks, please, we have a meeting going on. Could you please take your conversation out into the hallway?
Get breakfast or lunch or something.
Okay. Article 2 is the adjustments to the current fiscal year's operating budget. They're listed on the slides. Again, what happens is the budget is approved in April. We start the fiscal year 3 months later on July 1st, and then obviously things that happen that are unforeseen during the course of the year. As you can see, they cover the gambit from municipal personnel services to basically, retirements and departure of accrued time for employees. Again, that's not budgeted in our operating budget. We also have issues that arise during the course of the year that involve expenditure of monies, such as, work that we've done with the Fire Station Study Committee for consulting services, appraisal services, website support services, and public safety. We've been hit with inflation in terms of additional costs to equip and purchase 3 new cruisers. We're running an assessment center. We've had additional recruitment beyond what was foreseen by the significant amount of departures and retirements. And in fire department, we had unforeseen repairs to the microwave system and fire apparatus and vehicle repairs. And so, again, that just sort of sums up the total of what happens in the course of the year. The source of funding is from the Finance Committee's reserve fund and some of our snow and ice balance.
Any questions on Article 2? Okay, we'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 2 at town meeting.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor? All right, thank you.
Okay. Article 3 is the Neshoba Tech fiscal year 25 assessment in the amount of $4,037,071. You've seen the presentation materials. Basically, they're running the same type of cost constraints that we are in terms of, their labor contracts, their, operating costs of operations in terms of their insurance costs, because again, they run an entire self-contained entity like the town or the water districts, and, insurance, maintenance costs of the buildings and so forth. And so at this point, the assessment is also driven by the respective enrollment in the communities. And so again, the request is for $4,037,071.
Any questions on Article 3? Take a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 3.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Then Article 4 is the Chelmsford Public Schools operating budget, and the request here is to raise and appropriate $73,880,000 for the public schools operation for the upcoming fiscal year. Again, school committee had its public hearing. They presented to the finance committee. Their materials I provided to you. Basically, what's happening in the school district is very similar. I mean, you see the tale not only in Chelmsford and Neshoba Tech, but across the region. They've got their labor costs to provide. They're still dealing with the influx of additional operational costs to deal with the health and operations of students, i.e. special education services, special education tuitions, transportation costs, as well as, the synchronization of their operations in terms of, putting in a math curriculum and so forth. And so the school committee has conformed to the amount that I proposed back in January, and it gets us through this upcoming year.
Okay, any questions on Article 4? Okay, take a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 4.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Article 6 is the town's operating budget.
5.
I'm sorry, Article 5. Article 5 is the town's operating budget for fiscal year '25. It's broken down by the traditional line items for the year. It's a $162 million operating budget, of which $125 million comes from the tax levy, $21.5 million from state aid, $12.5 million from local receipts, and almost $4 million in available funds. And again, the big component of this is the schools are $74 million, as we just noted. Other departmental budgets of the town, aside from the school department, are roughly half that at $38 million. Benefits and insurance are $32 million. Which is up over 6.66%, and our debt service budget actually decreases down to $10.5 million, or declines by 4.5%. Again, our big drivers, as we've talked about going back to our budget hearings back in December: health insurance, retirement assessment, employee compensation, solid waste and recycling. We're now funding they support the cost for the Center for the Arts, our non-excluded debt service, Medicare tax, and our property casualty and workers' comp insurance. But again, this is a level service budget on the general government side, and where we provide all the benefits for the town and the school side. You can see our main costs are really driven by our labor agreements, our non-union pay plan, health insurance, retirement. It's the cost of operations for the upcoming year at level staffing, essentially, and level service.
Any questions on Article 5? Okay, take a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Article 6 is the Finance Committee Reserve Fund for the upcoming fiscal year. We've left that level funded at $400,000. And again, it's to provide emergency funding through the Finance Committee during an extraordinary unforeseen time. And we've also, as you can see, we use it as a funding source at Springtown meeting as we near the end of the fiscal year to allow town meeting to have the vote on those funds.
Any questions on Article 6?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 6.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Article 7 is the fiscal '25 capital plan. John Souza, who's our audience at this point, chairs the capital plan committee. He successfully led the committee through its review of the articles in November and December. They were presented again at January. when I released the budget and we'd gone through the finance committee hearing process, it's $5.88 million of projects. And, again, this is core infrastructure. We started out with almost double this amount of requests. These were the core ones. It's an increase of about a third of where we were for the prior fiscal year. But you can see what's going on here. These are, core switch upgrades for IT. It's flooring at the senior center. It's air handlers at the firearm range for health and concerns. Elevator replacements at the senior center. A new engine 5 replacement for the fire department at over $1 million. Ongoing sidewalk and roadway improvements. And then in the schools, again, we're dealing with roofs. A secure entryway at the McCarthy Middle School. So we funded the ranked priorities of the school department, elevator at McCarthy School, and then funding the future design and any immediate repairs that are necessary at the McCarthy School roof.
Okay, any questions on Article 7?
Paul, when we borrow for capital like this,
Yep.
what term are we going for when we borrow for this?
I know the answer, but I want to, since John's waiting here, I'll give him.
Okay,
I
good.
want to give him because he's working on it and he's been heading up our efforts with our financial lenders.
Yes. So, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, town manager. To answer Select Board Member Maloney's question, typically we usually bond 5 years on your smaller equipment, like your smaller trucks. Larger, like fire apparatus, that's $1 million. We would typically we bond for 10 years on that. Some of the school projects, depending on how permanent they are, we would be, if they're building repairs, typically 10, possibly as much as 15 years, but more towards the 10.
So we have a mixture of borrowing lengths of time based on what's most prudent for the town.
Yes, exactly. That's a good way to describe it. It is a mixture, and so
It's also defined by state statute, the limited limited borrowing times. In other words, you couldn't borrow a pickup truck and pay for it over 20 years under state law. They prescribe by statute the maximum borrow period, and as John noted, we stay within those. So for example, the one extreme, the maximum is 30 years. Currently, if you were to build a school, for example, currently it's a 30-year maximum borrowing period. They'll come in and say, departmental equipment and so forth, which are basically durable equipment, that could be 5 years, and then there are others that are 10 years and so forth. So we stay within those parameters, and as John said, we tend to be a little more conservative. So for example, if we're looking at the South Row School ceiling tile replacement, is that going to last us 20 years? Yes, but we really won't borrow it for 20 years. But that's how we do it.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on Article 7? Okay,
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 7.
Second.
there a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, thank you.
Article 8 is the Parker School, Middle School feasibility study. This is a request for $1.8 million to pay the cost of the feasibility study, which will be conducted through the support and guidance and oversight of the Massachusetts School Building Authority. They do specify our motion and our warrant article, and that's all been reviewed by MSBA as well as Bond Council and Town Council. Right now, we're in the eligibility period. One of the requirements is that we need to, while we're in this eligibility, include funding for the feasibility study. We will be reimbursed at a rate of 52.26% for this feasibility study, and that's regardless of whether or not the project ever gets constructed. Once that's approved by the MSBA, which we believe will be next February, the town would then have 913 days to complete the feasibility study. But they've also told us that because of how they space their projects, they've told us under no circumstances will they allow the town to have voter approval before July of 2026. So realistically, we're not going to do a vote in July of 2026. We're probably going to do a vote in fall of 26 or spring of 27. And then Dr. Lang and the school committee did a presentation. So how this will go at town meeting is I'll do the introductory, much like we've done on capital. And in the capital, John will go through all the projects. I'll go the introductory of this, and then Dr. Lang will go through about some of the key slides that were given at the recent school process that talks about why the need for the project in terms of the enrollment study that they have, the fact that the state is going to require the town to look at all feasible options, including, not only a grade, 5-6 school, but a grade 5 through 8 school, but also a grade 4 through 6 school. And there are strict parameters and so forth. And so, we'll be moving this forward, but this is a critical component. And again, one of the reasons, the school committee held the meeting last month on this, and we're bringing this to town meeting in April, is we really want to heighten the awareness of this effort. This is a major effort that's going to next go on to the formation of a building committee after town meeting, to, as I said, hopefully approval to proceed with the feasibility study next February. In the meantime, there will be other steps that have to be performed, such as we have to provide them with our maintenance information, we're going to provide them with our enrollment projections and so forth. So this is sort of the departure, and that's why we're bringing it now as opposed to in the fall, is we want to increase the awareness and have time for ample input, through the remainder of this calendar year.
Okay, any questions on Article 8?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 8.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Thank you.
Okay. Article 9 is the Sewer Enterprise Fund operating budget. This is a self-contained enterprise fund, so it stands alone, separate. The funding amount is $5.344 million, and that's an increase of about 9% for the upcoming fiscal year. And a lot of that is really driven by the increased assessment that we have to the city of Lowell, which was a double-digit increase for the operations and related costs to the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, any questions on Article 9?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 9.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Article 10 is the Kensington Road Sewer Pump Station. This is a request for $655,000 to upgrade the Kensington Road Pump Station. This is, again, part of the 10-year sewer capital improvement plan. The existing pump station was constructed 35 years ago. So basically, it's time to replace. Also, this is going to upgrade it to today's current standards. So you're going to house them in a structure with improved access to the pipes and valves, and that's what you'll see afterwards, as opposed to what you see now. So it's just basically again time to do the upgrade to the station, This is what's going to get us there. So again, we're not only doing capital, but the sewer and stormwater have their own capital costs.
Any questions for Article 10?
Make a motion to recommend approval of Article 10.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you.
Article 11 is for the sewer enterprise operations. It's the purchase of a flush truck for the sewer division at $350,000. The existing flush truck is almost 20 years old, and we're going to actually not trade it in. We're going to repurpose it over to the stormwater division, and the reason for that is you can't mix stormwater and sewer and equipment. Stormwater doesn't have a flush truck, so this will the flush truck from the sewer division maintains over 190 miles of sewer main. As Christine noted, they're out there looking and responding and dealing with any kind of buildup or blockages that occur. And again, the equipment has all the appurtenances that you'd have with a truck in terms of the remote manhole, rotating hose reels, and remote functions, as well as a water tank, so that you can deal with this not only in the summer weather, but also in climate-controlled conditions.
Stormwater has one?
No, sewer has one now. We're going to repurpose the sewer one to stormwater.
Oh, and buy a new sewer?
Right. I think that's what this is, a new sewer one.
Does the existing sewer one need to be decontaminated to use for the
Yeah, no, they do
stormwater?
clean it out. They sanitize it, yeah.
Do they?
That's what they do, yeah.
Interesting.
All right, any other questions about this flush truck that's obviously generating a lot of interest?
A lot of questions. I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 13.
11.
11.
You're trying to
Oh.
jump ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 11, yes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No. Thank you.
Article 12 is the Stormwater Enterprise Trust Enterprise Fund. This budget is $1.6 million. It's an increase of less than 2% from the current year to maintain the 95 miles of drains and 4,500 catch basins and culverts and so forth, during the course of the year. So again, it's level service for stormwater management.
Any questions on Article 12?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 12.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Article 13 is a stormwater camera truck for
It
the
sounds a lot like
stormwater
Article
division.
11,
Right,
doesn't
not
it?
a flush
That's why I
truck.
got
This is a camera
confused.
truck. $340,000.
Well,
And
you know.
This is to
Stormwater
go in
truck.
and into the stormwater to inspect the culverts and the piping infrastructure. There are over 325 culverts and 100 miles of drainage pipe in the town. And, it's just essential for operations that are out there. If we're trying to go contract this thing out, you're spending like $2,300 a day for this type of equipment.
Any questions on Article 13?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 13.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Article 14 is the Forum Ice Rink Enterprise Fund. It's level funded at $65,000 in expenses. We have a management company that's under a multi-year agreement, and so the enterprise fund level remains the same at $65,000.
Any questions on Article 14?
Make a motion to recommend approval of Article 14.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Article 15 is the Cable Access Enterprise Fund. It's $584,000. And again, this is not funded from our tax levy. It comes from funding from the surcharge on the cable bills. Again, level service budget for Chelmsford telemedia operations.
Any questions on Article 15?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 15.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Article 16 is a cable access expenditure article that comes, again, from their retained earnings because they're an enterprise fund. And as you can see, it's roughly $58,000 spread over 2 fiscal years for computer servers, camcorders, telecommunications equipment. So again, Pete, basically, again, people don't realize telemedia's been around for a while as well, and periodically they do need to update their equipment.
Any questions on Article 16?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 16.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Article 17 is the Golf Course Enterprise Fund. Again, this remains level funded at $30,000 for the operation of the year, which again is managed by a third-party operation. So basically what this does is this provides the town the ability to expend $30,000 that obviously comes from the rental income to do any maintenance of either the golf course building or the golf course itself, in terms of pumps, irrigation pumps, and other aspects out there.
Any questions on Article 17?
I will make a motion to recommend approval of Article 17.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Article 18 is the annual appropriation of departmental revolving funds. Under current provision of state law, and may be changed if the legislature ever does adopt a municipal reform law, which is languishing at the State House, that would actually eliminate the need to just continue to vote the same amounts every year, and you would only have to go if you change them. So, as a segue to this is the same amount of those funds for the current year, unless tweaked by the department head. And again, there's no cost to the taxpayer of the town. So when the senior citizen is running the respite care program, the money that is expended by that comes from the people who utilize the program. And same thing for seals and weights and measures. When they go out and check the scales and the scanners and the gas pumps, the people who have those pay the fees that we pay NIMCOG actually on a contract to do, and that covers the full cost. So again, this is just the annual reauthorization requirement for these accounts.
Any questions on Article 18?
Make a motion to recommend approval of Article 18.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Now you can see why there's such a long consent agenda, because a lot of these are just, procedural that we're required to do every year. Article 19 is Cemetery Development, Improvement Development Fund. This is $60,000 the Cemetery Commission is seeking, from which money comes from the sale of graves and lots to fund the improvements at the cemetery. And again, there are three areas this year. It's the Pine Ridge Cemetery expansion. They're going to pave and hydroseed the expansion area. At the West Chelmsford Cemetery, they're going to do repairs of the drainage structures and repave roads in the new section. And then they also have preventative tree work that arises during the course of the year.
Okay, any questions on Article 19?
Make a motion to recommend approval of Article 19.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Article 20, again, another annual spring article. Once again, for the 18th year, is to fund $10,000 for the Community Action Program to provide matching funds for community improvement projects. And again, since that time, there's been over 100 projects done, basically totaling almost $150,000. So again, what happens is we appropriate it. If it doesn't get fully expended, it goes back, and then we put in 10 for the next year. So we don't have a rolling balance. Because we've seen the projects ebbs and flows, and sometimes during COVID it ebbed, and then depending upon activity, so the 10,000 is still sufficient.
Okay, any questions on Article 20?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 20.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Article 21 is property valuation services. We're seeking to transfer $80,000 from our overlay surplus to fund property revaluation services for the town's fiscal year 26 5-year property valuation certification by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue. As the language indicates, every 5 years we're required to our total property has to be recertified by the Department of Revenue. What that means is we have to go out and basically visit properties, and basically over a 10-year period we have to hit all properties. So you do the math, over a 5-year certification, you basically will have done half of those, or roughly 10% per year we have to go out. This funding would allow us to go out to almost about 2,000 parcels. The cost is roughly $32 per parcel to go out there and do this work to basically be certified. And why we're funding it now, even though it's the 26th valuation, is you have to have the time to do that work. So what that means is we do it this season, we finish it off next spring, which is the end of fiscal year 25. We have to submit this work to the state by next summer, so that way in fiscal 26, when we go to set the tax rate in November, we have to have everything approved and certified, basically by Labor Day. So that's why even though it says the 26 reval, we have to do the work in 25. So that's what we're seeking to do here.
Okay. Any questions on Article 21?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 21.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second, all in favor?
Thank you. Article 22 is the Community Preservation Fund. This is the annual article where we fund the debt service for the previously approved community preservation projects. Set aside $50,000 for the administrative expenses of the Community Preservation Committee for issues that arise during the course of the fiscal year, and set aside the required reserves per state law, the 10% for each area. We anticipate for the upcoming fiscal year that the town will raise $1.5 million in Community Preservation Fund revenue from the 1.5% surcharge. As you may have read, or if you're aware, the state surcharge is falling, and the reason for that is twofold. One is, as more communities join community preservation, then they spread out the base. But the other thing is the state revenue comes from the deeds excise tax. And when you're in a period of low home sales and low financing, there isn't as much activity going through the registry of deeds to collect this surcharge on. So our best estimate at this point in time is roughly $250,000 would be the state surcharge, which is rather low compared to historically. So we should have roughly $1.75 million for the upcoming year, where we have to set aside, again, 10% for each of the surcharges. And then this is our existing debt out there. As you can see, this will be the last year to pay off the Varney Playground community preservation project. And you can see we're nearing the end for the Roberts Field and the Turf Field project within 3 fiscal years. Chelmsford Woods was the one David Hedison built up on Littleton Road. That's 4 years from final completion. Warren Pole is obviously new, but that's got, at this point, 7 years left. And then Coulis, we're projected, because we're not going to do that borrowing till this spring. That's obviously a longer term one. That's a 15-year bond. So again, the estimated debt amount is $822,000. And again, is what happens over time is these amounts go down, because I'll just reiterate for those watching and remind the board, the town pays level principal. So it's not like if you borrow for Warren Pole that you pay the same debt service every year. You pay the same principal every year, which means your interest cost declines over time. So that's why you see something like, well, how could you have done a $124,000 project at Varney and only $13,000 for debt service? It's because that's the last year of payment on that project, which I think we funded for 10 years. So that's what's happening here. Again, this is funding an obligation of the town, which quite frankly, if the town didn't do it, you'd have to fund anyway, because it's a legal obligation of the town. But that's what the vote is here.
Okay. Any questions on Article 22?
Make a motion to recommend approval of Article 22.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Thank you. And then we have 2 minor Community Preservation Committee projects. Again, in order for a project to be funded by Community Preservation Fund, it needs the support of the Community Preservation Committee. This year, they have 2 minor projects. One is $8,000 from their general reserve for preservation of headstones at Forefather Cemetery. This would be the second year they've done this. The first year went quite successful. So that's what's requested under this article is the continued restoration of the headstones. And in speaking to David Boyle, it's worked out really well.
Any questions on Article 23?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 23.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
And then the final community preservation article is, again, pertains to cemeteries. It's $40,000 to install a post and rail fence at the West Chelmsford Cemetery.
Any questions on Article 24?
I'll make a motion to to recommend approval of Article 24.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Okay, and then this will be the last article, since you already did 26 and 27. 25 is an article to accept the provision of state law regarding military service on salary, seniority, and leave allowances for town employees. The board may recall about 6 months or so ago, we had 2 police officers who went out to military leave. And what we did at that time is we basically amended the agreement to provide them that they would not lose any net salary, their seniority standing or leave while on military. This now extends it to the remainder of the town operations. So really where it would, we already have this in our fire contract, we have in our police contract. Where this might realistically happen would be something like in public works, if there was somebody on reserves or called up there, or perhaps even within the town general operations. And so again, the whole purpose of this is they just don't lose. They don't take a hit. Because obviously they're compensated by the military, but we would pay the gap so that they're not suffering any adverse impact from their leave of service.
Okay, any questions for Article 25?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Article 25.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Very good. Thank you. All right, next on our agenda is a proclamation request for National Public Works Week. Anybody have any comments, edits, concerns about this proposed proclamation?
Version I have said Board of Selectmen instead of
Yes.
Select Board. That needs to be fixed.
Yep. Anything else? One thing, kind of a peeve of mine is using the word citizens instead of residents.
Yeah.
I didn't think we granted citizenship to people, but we have a lot of residents, and if you count just people who vote, then we serve a lot more people than just people who vote.
Mm-hmm.
So I would recommend changing citizens to residents. I don't know how everybody else feels about
That's
that.
the issue here. That's fine, yeah.
Other than that, it looks good.
All right, we'll bring it back, amend it and bring it back to your next meeting.
Okay. All right, next up is the election of the Select Board Representative to the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments. As you know, I've been serving in that capacity for many years now, and I would like to remain. I think I represent the town well, especially in the Metropolitan Planning Organization that programs all the transportation funds for the area. In fact, tomorrow we're going to have an MPO meeting, and part of the discussion is going to be about the latest tip. And I just want to, I have some numbers here to kind of plead my case, since we have a few minutes. From the fiscal years 2015 to 2029, because we programmed the tip 5 years out, so it's programmed all the way to 2029. NEMCOG is composed of the city of Lowell and 8 towns: Billerica, Chelmsford, Drake, Dunstable, Pepperell, Tewksbury, Tingsboro, and Westford. And during that time frame, Lowell, as you would expect, received the most of those funds that were programmed at 55%. The town of Chelmsford received the second highest at 20%. The next highest town was Billerica at 9%. So I feel like I advocate for the town at this agency, and so far I feel like I've been successful in bringing transportation funds to the town of Chelmsford, and I would like to continue to do so. Any questions?
Just a suggestion, I'd like to hear more in liaison reports about what's going on at NIMCOG.
Okay.
We don't get any feedback here, I get it from the planning board.
Okay, I will do that. So, do we have a motion?
I will make a motion to elect Chair Wojcik as our Select Board Representative to the Northern Middlesex County Council of Governments.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? All right, thank you. Okay, and kind of on that topic is our liaison assignments, which I came up with a draft list here, which we can discuss. I don't know if anybody's not happy or how you feel about them.
I'm fine with it, but Paul, I had mentioned to Pat, these occurrences and times.
That's, I was, yeah.
Really host.
I mean, I was going to
off?
suggest that
Okay.
we even take that off, because,
I think it's there because it helps also adjudicate, not putting somebody on
right, but,
committees that all meet on the same night.
yeah, but sometimes people move, like, you know, especially the more recent ones.
There's some that need to be updated. I
Okay.
can give you a list.
Okay, I mean, if you feel it's useful, we can
I
leave
think
it.
it's useful.
Okay. All right, anybody else have any complaints? George? Okay. Next on our agenda is, our meeting schedule. So, I mean, Paul and I went over this last week, and I know there still are some conflicts here and there, but it's going to be hard to do a meeting schedule with 0 conflicts. And there was one, you know, I know, Virginia, you had mentioned that August 19th you would not be available, and I know on that one we note the goals work session. I think the goals work session should maybe be the first meeting in August, so that.
Well, I was going to just comment on all of the text marks in the first few months. They're all off from what we said we were going to do when we reviewed the performance appraisal format.
Right.
And so, you know, like I think putting the town manager final goals report on July 15th is too late, because we said we wanted to get the reviews done in July, and we wanted to start the goals process earlier, because when we start in, this happened like 1 year, because somebody had a 2-week June vacation, and then we just keep repeating it, but every time we start the goals process in August, we don't have our goals set till September, and the first quarter's already gone.
So do you think we should move it to July 15th? The goals?
Yeah, so Paul, if we just back up.
Sure.
Paul has on May 20th his quarterly goals report. I don't know how much that's going to change in a month when the fiscal year ends. So it seems to me that where we have a performance appraisals on August 5th, that's way too late. What we said in our policy was we were going to try to have that done by the end of June.
Well, I think we said no later than July, so, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're right, no later than July. So, like, when we get the dates lying flat, that needs to move up accordingly. And then I would move the goals work session, like, right after that one. Whenever we do when we do the performance appraisals, in the next meeting, I would start goals.
Sure, yeah.
Or start them earlier if we need to. I don't know that those two things have to be sequential, right? If the fiscal year starts in July, we could start thinking about goals before July.
We could, yeah. Although so you want to have a goals meeting in June?
I don't know, Pat, I'm just, the way it is right now, it's still, everything's happening way too late. So my thought, I guess, can we get the dates? Can we just talk about the dates for a minute?
Sure.
So, for example, we go from June 3rd, and then we don't have a meeting till June 24th, which is 3 weeks. If we went June 3rd to June 17th, that would be a 2-week cadence.
What is the municipal?
I have, and I'll also just say, and I know you have the bond
I
sale that
guess-
has to be approved, but I am likely going to be away on business travel on the 24th. I think I could probably Zoom in, I'm confirming that, but I am still concerned about 3 weeks in between meetings in June. There's a lot happening usually.
Well, there is a reason that we have it on the 24th and not the 17th. And Paul, if you want to
Well, we
explain.
have to do the bond sale.
And that happens on that date?
It can't happen before then.
Okay.
Again, unless you want to do a special meeting where we can just do no, I'm just saying,
So it would have to
we
be
can do an afternoon meeting or morning meeting, whatever, but as you know, what happens is they come in, they issue the bond sale, and we have to close
Right.
within a 7-day window. And that's why it's targeted, scheduled out for the 24th, because we can't start till we leave town meeting, and then you can't submit it to the financing until the appeal period of town meeting lapses. So now you're at mid-May, and then you've got to go to the bonding agency and then the prospectus, and so that's why it has to occur in the last week of June.
Now, does it have to be before the end of the fiscal year?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because the money has to be received before the end of
Okay,
the
because I
fiscal
was
year.
going to say July 1st, but that's too late. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Because
could,
one of the big things on that is the borrowing we did for Coolis, that's in this fiscal year.
Okay. Virginia, you
so
had a
that, I
question?
mean, that's fine. If things are piling up in those 3 weeks, we can always play it by ear, whether
Right,
we
we could-
call
right,
another meeting on a
exactly.
Monday.
Yeah.
But then there's another big gap. Then we go June 24th to July 15th.
Right,
That's
because.
'cause July 4th.
Because there's not much happens during the July 4th
They have one
holidays.
in July and one in August
Well,
before.
we only have one scheduled in
I
July.
know that. so
That's for you.
I know, yeah. Thank you, appreciate that.
So no
Happy
July
birthday.
8th.
And then, yeah,
The reason for that, Aaron, is July 8th is a Monday, July 4th is a Thursday. We'd be getting you the packets on the 3rd, but what's going to
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah.
and what's going to happen between June 24th and,
Gotcha.
July 3rd.
Right.
I gotcha. So July 15th. You guys know I have to nail this down because I'm the one who always gets whenever you mess with the every other week thing, I get a little, I'm the one who gets it messed up.
well,
So
you know,
can make sure it's in
the
the
other
calendar.
question, I guess, Pat, is does the board want to have the goals discussion in the midst of a regular agenda, or just schedule a goals working session?
we have done that before.
Right, which
so-
we could do. I don't know what people's vacation schedules are, but we could do that in July potentially and just get it going.
Any thoughts on that? Have a
Rather
special-
than wait till August, because
Right,
again, the whole
I
first
agree.
quarter is gonna go
Yeah,
by.
I agree that, yeah, August 19th is too late to have the goals work session.
That's fine with me.
Do you, how's everybody feel about having it? I mean, I think it sometimes depends on what else we have there, what else we're working on, like, I wouldn't want to do goals on a night like tonight.
No, and that's what I'm looking at, like July, you have July 15th, where we're maybe doing the performance reviews and stuff, and then we're not meeting again until 3 weeks later on the 5th, so even the 5th might be too much to put goals on that agenda. So do you want to pick July 22nd or 29th to just dedicate to a goals discussion, a shorter meeting?
We could do that if everybody else is okay with that. Aaron, how do you feel about that?
I'm receptive to whatever anybody wants to do. I'm just kind of lessons learned.
Which day? July what?
Either July 22nd or 29, just for goals, which means it might be a short meeting, maybe
Yeah, that's fine.
an hour and a half. Or
That's fine.
how about you guys?
Fine.
George, I'm going to have to have you 2 meetings in July.
Oh, my God.
How about the 22nd then, the sooner one for goals?
Yeah. Does that work for you, Paul?
Yep, that's fine.
And the performance appraisals on July 15th, everybody okay with that? Move that up to no later than,
Yeah.
We can get them by the end of June, but that would be no later than. Okay, how about the rest of the dates?
So I'm on vacation August 19th, so I can't commit to that one.
And I'm on vacation the week before, which is fine because we don't have anything.
I'm on vacation the week after, so August 26th.
When are you on vacation?
And then the problem after
A
that.
bunch of vacations.
And then the
I'll
problem
be
is,
calling into a few meetings, so.
the problem is Labor Day is the
Don't worry about
Monday
me.
afterwards.
All right.
Yeah, September 2nd is,
Yeah.
yeah.
For 6 months.
Be in Dubai for 6
I mean, can we
months.
skip that one?
Yeah, well, I
No,
mean,
I wouldn't skip it.
Yeah,
I
because-
just might not join.
because that's the draft of the first draft.
Right.
Is that right, Paul? The first draft
The
is
only draft.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, because the next
yeah.
one we sign it. So I think we need to get a draft. So I would suggest we stay with the 19th. And, yeah, I mean, not everybody's going to make it to every meeting, so.
Okay.
And then the other question I had is between October 28th and November 4th, that's like 1 week. Was that intentional?
Yeah,
Is there other stuff
because
going on?
Veterans Day is on a Monday this year.
Okay.
And so so we're trying, you're pivoting around Veterans Day and Thanksgiving in a tight month,
Yeah, and
And
we have,
then-
remember.
And then December 9th, Paul, you have the tri-board meeting, and I just want to make sure that's a mostly dedicated meeting just to that? Because
That's
we've,
solely-
we've,
we'll
we've
be up
said
with- we'll be up-
sometimes that it's part of our meeting, and then
No,
we
that's
wind
one,
up
that's
putting
one
an
at the
extra
school,
meeting
that's
in.
one at the school
Okay.
admin building.
yeah,
Yep.
I don't know that it's ever been, or not recently anyway, that's ever been part of our meeting.
And then my other question was in January, we have January 6th. I thought what we did before was we would have one on January 20th as a regular meeting, and then the 27th was just the budget, because that was so long.
The problem is, January 20th is the Martin Luther King holiday.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not the
Because-
13th?
No,
No.
it's the 20th,
It's the third
third Monday.
So we're going another 3 weeks.
unless
Yeah.
you want to meet back to back. It's
No,
one of the birds
I
before it,
don't.
but, you know.
Yeah.
I know it's those holidays kill you sometimes.
And also the MMA is the 23rd and 24th.
Yeah.
So that's why I pushed my budget thing out till February.
Okay.
All right. So everybody all set with that, those changes we made? You get all those, right, Paul?
All right.
What?
Can you send this out?
I'll send that all
again?
revised, yeah, I will.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see, what's next? Town manager bid awards.
Yeah, just one item, bid awards. It's for highway sidewalk and curbing. There were 3 bids received. The low bid was from MacIver Brothers in the amount of $694,505. The other 2 bids came in at $812,000, and the middle bid was $791,000. The only concern here, and we've checked with town council, is the low bid didn't acknowledge the addendum 1, which was to furnish and install drop inlet covers from a quantity of 1 to a quantity of 3, which was a total difference of $3,000. And so it's basically de minimis. And so council's feeling, and upon his review of case law, is that we can award the bid despite that irregularity. We anticipate there'll be a bid protest, but we'll deal with the Attorney General's office if that does occur. So I just want to give the board the sense is that, of what's taking place here. But at this point, we're seeking the board's award for highway, sidewalk, and curbing to MacIver Brothers for $694,505.
Well, does that include the extra 3,000?
No, it doesn't.
Should we increase that by?
No,
Okay.
because they missed the thing. I mean,
Okay.
You'll have to eat it?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of the addendum. I would have told them not to issue the addendum. I mean, but this is where we are.
Okay. All right, we have a motion.
I will make a motion to approve, am I approving? The town manager bid award?
Yep.
For sidewalk construction to MacIver Brothers.
In the amount?
Oh, in the amount, sorry, of $694,505.
$50.
$550. I'm looking at the letter.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, the
Oh.
letter says something different. To the MacIver Brothers in the amount of $694,050.
Second?
Give a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, town manager reports.
Just briefly, as we approach our third hour. First thing is significant. Again, as part of the MSBA Parker School eligibility period, they require communities to sign this initial compliance certification, which lists through 38 items. It sort of just lays out the current parameters of the program through state regulations. And so it basically, for example, it confirms that all the meetings of the school building committee will be publicly posted meetings in compliance with the open meeting law. It makes clear to the community that this is a discretionary program, that there's no entitlement. So therefore, if the bottom falls out of the economy and the state decides to delay or whatever, you can't go and sue the state for not funding the project. It also clearly spells that in this case, the district or the town will work in collaboration with the school building authority, that they won't reimburse the communities for any land acquisition costs, which again, is part of the state's regulations. The town has to conform the minimum maintenance requirements for any facility. You have to consider all options for a school building project, which, again, I mentioned earlier, the different grade configurations and so forth. You have to vote the full amount of funding for the project in order to be approved by the authority. You have to conform with all the authority's standard formats. You have to obviously agree to their audit requirements. Again, these were done historically, but they've obviously tightened this stuff up. You can't, for example, have closed a school in order to be eligible for a new school within a 10-year period, so you can't create a space issue by closing a school. You also, for example, have to agree that you're going to maintain the school for a 50-year period as a public school. And you're not aware of any lawsuits or litigation for the project, and so forth. I mean, so it goes on into, the parameters. You have to have a certified public purchasing official on your committee. You have to provide free access to the authority. and obviously deal with them in terms of, you have to provide open communication to the project manager, that, I'm trying to think what other things are in here. You authorize the authority to execute and so forth. So basically, these are standard parameters that any community that goes into the project have to approve. This has been reviewed by the chair of the school committee. It's been reviewed by the superintendent of schools. It's standard counsel, and I've signed on behalf of the town. So just wanted the board and the community to be aware of that, that, again, this is, again, part of the paperwork and process that's, on strict guidelines with the state. And then the other part of my report is the monthly double poll report from National Grid. I did request them, as we requested at the last meeting, that they provide a summary of the changes since the last month of March. There were, they closed 11 tickets, meaning 11 double polls in March, and 3 thus far mid-April when this was produced. The added 5 new ones in April. The ball's in the court for the town in terms of 20 of them, basically on North Road and Bill Ricker Road. And so now that we're out of the inclement weather period, we'll be working with DPW and our consultant, meaning the service company, to get our fiber moved to move these projects along. So again, news is progression. National Grid claims in this report that there's only 3 tickets that they have to complete. There are 4 disputed tickets and 5 requiring more work. So they basically list of the 60 double polls that are open, they only have 12 of them. So again, work is progressing. Once you sort of get past Verizon and National Grid, Comcast usually moves pretty quickly. And then we can work with National Grid if there are any third parties out there to get done. So again, we're basically staying on top of this, and my goal on the town side is to make sure that we're not the ones holding up with our fiber, or our fire department, which is basically our old fire line.
So we can't tell in this report who's next?
Yes, it's called the Next to Go. It's the NTG, Next to Go.
All right.
That's where they are. That's Next to Go. Yep.
Where does it say NTG?
It's about the 5th column, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th column.
Oh.
As you can see,
Oh, that's the Next to Go. That's
Next to Go,
the
yep.
next.
And they go from the top. So basically, National Grid is always first. And then, you go to Verizon, Comcast, town, and third parties. So again, we'll ask, I basically told National Grid their choice. They can either send me an updated report on the 1st of every month or the 15th, rather than chasing them every month.
Sure,
It's easier
yeah.
for them. They can put in their annotation, their calendars. So what we'll be able to do is just compare month to month as we go forward.
Yeah, and we did say at some point we might want them back, but, I
Yeah.
mean, as long as they keep giving us something like this and we see progress being made, I mean, 60 is
Yeah.
a lot better than...
On one page.
Yeah, exactly.
There's an achievement right there.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. All right, we have one set of meeting minutes from April 1st. Anybody have any comments, corrections on those? If not, we can have a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of April 1st, 2024, as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
All right. We're finally to liaison reports and referrals. George, anything? Pat? Erin?
No.
Virginia?
The Vinyl Square Committee is having a hybrid meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in room 205 and via Zoom, and they are welcoming and encouraging anyone from the public to join. They have a lot of updates for North Village and there's other opportunities to participate. And from the North Chelmsford Water District, they are going to be hydrant flushing between Middlesex Street and Princeton Street next Tuesday and Wednesday night. They will have information on the website, and they're going to be continuing hydrant flushing in different parts of town, and that'll all be laid out on the website.
That it? Okay, I have a few things. First of all, a couple of weeks ago, the Chelmsford Police Foundation had an award ceremony, and the officers from the fire department who were given meritorious service awards for life-saving included Lieutenant William Carlo, Sergeant Robert Brown, Sergeant Matthew Fernald, Patrol Officer Matthew Kilmartin, Patrol Officer Kaylee Marshall, Patrol Officer Craig Mead, Patrol Officer Kevin Quinn, Patrol Officer Christopher Robinson, Retired Patrol Officer Anthony Spinazzola, Patrol Officer Nicholas Thayer, Patrol Officer Derek Tyros, and Clinician Rachel Beers. Also receiving a Meritorious Service Award of Outstanding Performance of Duty was Detective Jeffrey Blodgett. Last week, we had 2 new officers sworn in, 2 new patrol officers. They are Haley Lucas and Michael Buxton, so watch out for them patrolling around town. The Chelmsford Fire Department recently had 2 promotions. Ryan Hoole became the new deputy chief, and Josh Abbott became a captain. A couple of things from the library. The Chelmsford Friends of the Library book sale is this Friday and Saturday, April 26th and 27th. There's going to be plenty of books available, so stop by the town office's gym Friday or Saturday to stock up on your books. The author of Town's one book, which was, I forget the name of it now. Anyway, Peter Swanson is the author, and he will be at the library next Sunday on April 28th at 2 p.m. to give a talk about his book. And the library will be hosting an environmental fair on Saturday, May 4th from 1 to 4 p.m. on the front lawn. And lastly, condolences to the family of George Ripson. He was a longtime member of the Finance Committee, longtime town meeting representative, and he was instrumental in the preservation of the mill stream over on Mill Road. So that is all I have for
Daphne
you.
Freeman. Daphne Freeman.
Oh, right, and condolences to the family of Daphne Freeman, the wife of longtime Representative Bruce Freeman. And that's all I have for this evening. So, a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.